Let's talk about something that can change your life. The difference between a true friend and a fake one. And I want you to really hear this, because if you're a woman who's ambitious, kind-hearted, or growing in any direction, you will face this. Understanding the difference between real and fake friendships isn't just a social skill. It's survival, emotional survival. And it's one of the most important things you will ever learn. Because the people you allow in your life, those closest to you, are the people who shape your self-worth, your energy, your mindset, and even your future. So let's break this down. A true friend is someone who wants to see you win. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you're down and they get to play the hero, but even when you're shining, especially when you're shining. A real friend isn't threatened by your glow. They help you fix your crown when it's crooked, and they cheer for you loudly when you walk into your light. There's no competition, no jealousy disguised as support, no backhanded compliments, no weird energy in the room when you announce your new promotion or the fact that you're finally happy in your relationship. They don't get quiet when good things happen for you. They celebrate like it's their own win. That's love. That's what real friendship looks like. Now let's talk about the opposite of that. Fake friends. These people are actors, and unfortunately, many of us are too trusting to spot the performance early on. Fake friends show up when it benefits them. When they can be seen with you, when they can get something from you, when it makes them feel powerful or relevant or important. But the second you need something real, the second life gets hard or the spotlight shifts, watch how they vanish. Watch how they get uncomfortable, how they start to subtly withdraw, how they make you feel like a burden for needing them. You'll hear excuses like, "I've just been so busy," or "You're strong, you got this." But underneath that, there's a complete lack of presence. That's a fake friend. Another key difference is how they react to your pain. A real friend feels with you. They don't have to solve your problems, but they show up. They sit next to you in your darkness, even if they don't have the right words. They call. They check in. They let you cry. They don't disappear because you're not a fun that day. A fake friend. They're Mia the minute the energy shifts. You start talking about something heavy, and suddenly they're a busy, distracted, or worse, annoyed. Why? Because it's not about them anymore. Your pain isn't entertaining. Your vulnerability isn't convenient. And so they're gone. Now let me say something loud and clear. This is not your fault. You are not a too much for wanting a friendship that's deep, loyal, and real. You're not needy. You're not clingy. You're a human being, and human beings need connection. You deserve people in your life who see you, hear you, and respect you, especially in your lowest moments. But here's the truth that most people avoid. The reason many of us hold on to fake friends is because we're afraid of being alone. And I get it. Loneliness hurts. I want you to understand something crucial. There is peace in being alone that you will never find in fake company. When you choose to walk away from the wrong people, you make space for the right ones. And that's not just a feel-good quote. That's a life strategy. You have to raise your standards, not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships too. Stop accepting crumbs. Stop excusing bad behavior because of how long you've known someone. Time invested is not love. Consistency is love. Support is love. Truth is love. And if someone's not bringing that into your life, you need to stop giving them the best parts of you. You are not here to carry people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. You are not here to be someone's emotional punching bag or backup plan. You are here to live your life fully with joy, with peace, and with people who match your energy. So if you're feeling off about someone, trust that. Pay attention. How someone treats you when you're vulnerable is the real test of friendship. You owe it to yourself to stop calling people friends who wouldn't even pass the basic test of loyalty, kindness, and respect. Let them go. Walk away. Because once you start surrounding yourself with the real ones, your life will start to feel lighter. And that is where your power begins. Your power begins. Let's talk about competition in friendships. Because this is one of the most overlooked toxic patterns that so many women silently endure. And if you've ever felt like your friend low-key resents your success, this is for you. A real friend celebrates your growth. A fake friend competes with it. And there's a big difference between inspiration and rivalry. When you're close to someone, it's natural to influence each other. That's part of the magic of friendship. You help each other rise. But when someone can't be happy for you unless they're doing better than you, that's not a friendship. That's a scoreboard. And you're not in a relationship. You're in a competition you didn't even sign up for. Pay attention to how people respond when you win. Do they get quiet? Do they change the subject? Do they suddenly start highlighting their own achievements out of nowhere, like they're trying to prove something? That's not normal. That's a red flag. A healthy friend doesn't feel threatened by your glow. She cheers you on because she knows your success doesn't take anything away from her. There's no scarcity in real friendship. There's enough love, enough opportunity, enough room at the top for all of us. But a fake friend? They don't see it that way. They see your growth as a threat to their self-worth, and so they start competing, subtly. It could be a sarcastic comment when you're excited about something new. Oh, must be nice to have time for that. Or it could be them rushing to do something similar, not because it excites them, but because they need to prove they're still ahead. And the worst part? They do it while pretending to support you. That's the mind game. Fake friends wear masks. They'll say things like, "I'm so happy for you," but their tone says otherwise. Their energy feels heavy. You walk away from the conversation second-guessing yourself, wondering if you were bragging, wondering if you should have downplayed your joy. And let me tell you something, you should never have to shrink your success to make someone else comfortable. Real friends don't require that. Real friends want you to shine as bright as possible, and they'll bring the damn sunglasses if they have to. Women are taught from a young age to compete, to be prettier, smarter, more successful, more desirable. We're conditioned to compare, but that stops with you. You get to break that pattern by choosing friendships rooted in respect, not rivalry. And part of that process means calling it what it is when someone's competing with you instead of cheering for you. Don't gaslight yourself. If something feels off, it probably is. You might notice it in the little things. Maybe you land a new job, and instead of saying, "That's amazing, I'm proud of you," they say, "Well, I've been thinking about making a move too." Or you start a new health journey, and suddenly they're talking about how they've always been more disciplined. You share your wins, and they bring the conversation back to themselves. Every single time. And it's exhausting. Because instead of feeling uplifted, you feel like you're being dragged into a silent war you never agreed to fight in. Now listen, some people do this out of insecurity. They don't even realize they're doing it. But just because someone is unaware doesn't mean it's your job to tolerate it. You can love someone and still recognize that their behavior is toxic. You can care about someone and still walk away when the relationship becomes emotionally draining. You are not here to tiptoe around someone's ego. You are not responsible for making your joy more palatable for others. Your wins matter. Your progress matters. And anyone who makes you feel guilty or uncomfortable about that is not in your corner, period. The truth is, the people you surround yourself with either elevate you or drain you. And when you're connected to someone who's constantly competing with you, it chips away at your confidence. Slowly. Quietly, you start questioning your worth. You start doubting your voice. And before you know it, you're holding yourself back just to keep the peace. But here's the reality. You can't grow in a space that requires you to shrink. Real friendship is a safe space for both people to thrive, to shine, to evolve. And if someone can't handle your glow, they're not your people. Wish them well and move on. Because the more you protect your peace, the more space you make for the kind of women who will clap for you every step of the way. And let me tell you, those women exist. They're out there. But you have to stop giving your time and energy to people who are silently rooting against you just to find them. So let go of the fake competitors and start building a circle of real women who don't just stand beside you. They rise with you. Let's get brutally honest for a second. If someone is talking about you behind your back, they are not your friend. I don't care how long you've known them, how many memories you've shared, or how much they smile in your face. Real friends protect your name in rooms you're not in. Fake friends, they throw your name around like it means nothing. And too many women stay in toxic friendships because they don't want to be a dramatic or a petty. Let me tell you something. Protecting your peace is not petty. Calling out betrayal is not drama. It's self-respect. And gossip is one of the clearest signs that a person lacks integrity. And when it comes from someone close to you, it stings in a way that words can't explain. You feel exposed, disrespected, and worst of all, you start questioning everything. What else have they said? Who else knows my personal business? That kind of doubt can destroy trust in a heartbeat. And once that trust is broken, the foundation of the friendship crumbles with it. No, it's more subtle. It's the comments wrapped in concern. I just think she's making a mistake. Or the ones that start with a no offense but, which, let's be honest, always means offense is coming. It's the eye roll when you're not looking, the backhanded joke disguised as humor, the private details you shared in confidence suddenly becoming public knowledge. It's betrayal disguised as conversation, and it's unacceptable. The truth is, what someone says about you when you're not around says everything about their character and their loyalty. A real friend defends you. Period. They shut down the gossip, they correct the narrative, and they don't allow your name to be dragged through the mud just to feel included in a conversation. That's called integrity. That's called respect. And that's the bare minimum you should expect from anyone in your inner circle. But let's flip this for a moment, because this might sting. If your friend is gossiping about other people to you, chances are she's gossiping about you to other people too. That's not loyalty, that's entertainment. And if someone's using you as their gossip buddy, you're just another player in their drama reel. Don't confuse shared secrets with shared values. Some people don't connect through love or trust. They connect through negativity. And you don't need that energy in your life. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but she's always been there for me. Or she doesn't mean it like that. Let me stop you right there. Stop making excuses for people who keep showing you who they really are. If someone continues to disrespect you, the problem isn't their behavior, it's your boundaries. And I say that with love, because setting boundaries isn't about being mean, it's about being clear. If you can't keep my name out of messy conversations, you don't get access to my life. It's that simple. We have to stop normalizing friendships that are based on fear, obligation, or history. Just because someone's been around for a long time doesn't mean they belong in your future. Time does not equal loyalty. Actions do. And when someone shows you that they can't be trusted with your name, your secrets, or your energy, you owe it to yourself to walk away. Not with anger, not with revenge, with clarity. Here's the part that really matters. Protecting your space isn't about isolating yourself. It's about creating room for the right people to step in. People who uplift you when you're not in the room. People who speak life over your name when you're not listening. People who value your trust and guard it like it's their own. Those people exist. But you won't find them if you keep entertaining the ones who disrespect you behind your back. Let them talk. Let them show their true colors. And you can't have peace when you're surrounded by people who secretly want to see you fall. You deserve friendships rooted in honesty, loyalty, and love. Anything less is just noise. And you're not here for noise. You're here to build a life full of genuine connections, mutual respect, and soul-deep trust. So protect your name, protect your energy, and protect your heart. The right people will always have your back, even when you're not there to see it. Have you ever left a conversation with someone feeling completely drained, like your energy just got sucked out of you? That's not your imagination. That's your body and mind signaling something important. That person is not good for your spirit. One of the biggest signs of a fake friend is how you feel after spending time with them. And if you're always left feeling anxious, small, exhausted, or confused, pay attention. Real friendships are meant to energize you, not deplete you. They're supposed to be safe places where you feel seen, supported, and understood, not judged, picked apart, or emotionally drained. Some people don't show up to love you, they show up to take from you. And they do it so subtly that it takes time to notice. These are the friends who only talk about themselves. Every conversation circles back to their problems, their drama, their lives. You could be in the middle of sharing something that matters to you, and suddenly the spotlight's off of you and right back on them. It's not just self-centered, it's dismissive. And after a while, you stop talking, you stop sharing, you start shrinking. And that's not friendship, that's emotional theft. Fake friends thrive on imbalance. They want you to always be the one giving, the advice giver, the cheerleader, the emotional support system. But when it's your turn to lean on them, they disappear. Or worse, they make you feel guilty for needing anything at all. They throw around words like you're too sensitive or you're overthinking it when you try to express how you feel. That's not emotional honesty. That's manipulation. And you deserve better than that. Let's be real. Relationships are a two-way street. We all go through seasons when we lean on our friends a little more. That's normal. That's human. But if the pattern is constant, If you're always the one pouring and never being poured into, that's a sign that the connection is toxic. It doesn't mean the person is evil. It just means the friendship isn't aligned anymore. And that misalignment over time can impact everything. Your mood, your self-esteem, your ability to focus on your goals. It's that deep. Some fake friends come with a different kind of energy drain, the negative kind. The ones who complain constantly, who always have a crisis, who always find a reason why life is unfair or someone else is to blame. These are the ones who view the world through a lens of lack. And when you're around them, your vision starts to get cloudy too. You start to doubt your optimism. You start to second-guess your ambition because their energy doesn't inspire, it infects. You have to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Your energy is your life force, and anyone who repeatedly drains that energy is costing you something you can't afford to lose. You should not have to recover from every interaction you have with someone who claims to care about you. That's not love, that's chaos. And the longer you tolerate it, the more you teach yourself that this level of exhaustion is normal. But it's not. Real friends leave you feeling lighter. Even in hard times, even when life is messy, there's a calm in their presence, a sense of safety. You can be yourself without fear of judgment or ridicule. You can show up messy, confused, imperfect, and still be loved. That's real connection. And if you've never experienced it, let me be the one to tell you. It's out there. You just have to let go of what's draining you to find it. You are not a fixer. You are not a therapist. You are not an emotional sponge for other people's unhealed wounds. You're a person with dreams, with needs, with a heart that deserves kindness in return. And the moment you start honoring that, your life changes, your circle tightens, your peace expands, and the emotional freedom that comes from that is priceless. So the next time you walk away from a conversation feeling heavy, don't ignore it, don't justify it. Don't gaslight yourself into thinking you're being too sensitive. You're not, you're being aware, and awareness is power. Let it guide you. Let it protect you. Let it lead you toward the people who feel like sunlight, not shadows. Because life is too short to keep giving your energy to people who only know how to take. You deserve to be surrounded by those who fill your cup, not empty it. And the moment you start choosing those kinds of connections, everything shifts, your joy rises, your confidence strengthens, and you begin to thrive, not just survive. That's the life you were meant for. And it starts with saying no to energy that drains you. Let's talk about something that's often disguised as love, but really, it's control. One of the most toxic signs of a fake friend is someone who constantly tries to control who you are, how you think, how you act, and even who you spend time with. At first, it might not seem obvious. It could be subtle, little jabs, backhanded compliments, or comments that make you question your own decisions. But make no mistake, when someone is trying to mold you into who they want you to be instead of loving who you actually are, that's manipulation, that's control, and that's not love. A true friend embraces you as you are. They accept your quirks, your passions, your weird sense of humor, your dreams, even if they don't always understand them. They want you to be fully yourself because they know that's where your power lives. But a fake friend, they'll try to dim that power. They'll try to make you feel like you need to tone it down, like you're too much or not enough, depending on how insecure they feel that day. It's about keeping you small so they can feel bigger. You'll start noticing it in small ways. But here's the hard truth. A fake friend is threatened by your success. They'll mask it as a concern or just being honest. But deep down, they're jealous, insecure, and uncomfortable with your growth. And that's something you can't ignore. They might be the ones who subtly downplay your achievements. You finally land that promotion, that opportunity, or you make a breakthrough in your personal life, and they respond with something like, well, it's not that big of a deal, or I knew you could do it. They make it seem like your success doesn't matter, like it's not worth celebrating because on some level, they're threatened by it. They may not even realize it, but they're creating space between you and them because your light is shining too brightly for their comfort. This is the tricky part. Fake friends don't usually show their jealousy in obvious ways. They don't typically say, I'm jealous of you. Instead, they show it in how they act around your accomplishments. They might not show up to celebrate your wins. Oh, they might ignore your accomplishments or downplay them when you do share. And if you're paying attention, You'll notice the pattern. They're always there when things are difficult, when you're feeling low, when you need support, but when it comes to your victories, silence. It's painful because you're left wondering, oh, why can't they be happy for me? Why can't they support me the way I've supported them? But the truth is, their inability to celebrate your success comes from their own insecurities. They're not able to fully accept that your success doesn't diminish their worth. It actually has nothing to do with them at all. But they see it differently. They see your achievements as a reminder of what they feel they lack. They feel like they're being left behind or that they're not as good as you. And instead of celebrating your growth, they shrink back, withdrawing support, or worse, subtly trying to make you feel guilty for succeeding. Real friends, on the other hand, are the ones who cheer you on like you're the only person in the world. They don't see your success as a competition. They see it as a win for both of you. A true friend wants to see you rise because your victories mean more to them than their own ego. They know that when one person succeeds, it raises the entire group. They want you to have everything you dream of because they know that your success doesn't take away from their own journey. It enhances it. They are genuinely happy for you. They show up to celebrate your wins, no matter how big or small. When you're surrounded by people who can't celebrate your success, let's have a real conversation. Not the kind where we sugarcoat hard truths or fall back on cliches. I'm talking about the kind of talk that makes you sit up, reevaluate everything you thought you knew, and maybe even finally see clearly. Because here's the deal. In today's dating world, chaos reigns. The hookup culture is louder than ever. Words like situationship are casually thrown around like they mean something stable. Everyone's looking for connection, but most are settling for distraction. And in that noise, a single piercing question keeps showing up for so many women. How do I know if it's real? I'm not just talking about the relationship label. I'm not even talking about how often he texts you back. I'm talking about intimacy. Those private, silent, raw moments between just the two of you. No audience, no performance, no script. When you're skin to skin and the masks fall off, is it love or is it lust pretending to be something deeper? Because let's be honest, physical chemistry is easy. You can have sparks with someone you met last week. You can have passion without presence, pleasure without connection. So what separates real, grounded, emotionally available love from a performance designed to impress or manipulate? What if I told you there are 6 clear, powerful behaviors that men only exhibit during lovemaking when their love is genuine? This video isn't about bedroom techniques or overused romantic tropes. It's about recognizing emotional truth in physical intimacy. It's about reclaiming your standards and refusing to settle for shallow when what you crave is sacred. We're going to walk through 6 signs that reveal a man's emotional depth. Not by what he says when the lights are on, but by what he does when everything else goes quiet. You're not just going to feel desired, you're going to feel undeniably loved if he shows these signs. And once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. So here's my challenge to you. As you watch, ask yourself, have I ever experienced this? Did I mistake performance for presence? Did I confuse heat for connection? And most of all, am I still accepting less than what I now know is possible? This isn't about fantasy. This is about love, stoic truth, rooted in presence, vulnerability, and stoicism. A man who acts from love doesn't just touch your body. He honors your heart, your safety, your soul. What you're about to discover could shift the way you approach love and connection for the rest of your life. So don't look away now, because part 1 is where everything begins. It's subtle, sacred, and completely transformational. Shall we begin? 1, he slows down because he wants to savor you, not rush through you. When a man genuinely loves you, something fundamental shifts in how he approaches intimacy. Not just in pace, but in presence, intention, and emotional quality. In a world that glorifies fast everything, fast food, fast dates, fast sex, it takes a rare kind of man to go slow. Not because he's unsure, but because he values the moment so deeply that he refuses to rush through it. Ask yourself, how many times have you mistaken speed for passion, urgency for desire, or choreography? That slowing down is not simply a change in physical speed. It's a complete shift in consciousness. He's not trying to impress, perform, or dominate. He's present. He's tuned in. He listens to your breath, watches your expressions, feels the subtle tension and release in your body. Have you ever felt that? That kind of stillness, that kind of deliberate attention that makes the entire world feel like it's paused? That's not just romance, it's emotional intelligence in motion. It's stoicism applied to intimacy, the ability to remain present and deeply calm in moments where ego usually takes the lead. He touches you like time doesn't exist. He doesn't rush toward climax because the act itself isn't a means to an end. It's the end. It's the center. And in that center, he finds joy not in what he gets from you, but in what he gives, in how he connects, in the mutual unfolding of something sacred. Can you tell the difference? Because once you've experienced this level of presence, of slow, emotionally grounded connection, everything else feels like noise, like a race you never agreed to run. When a man is truly in love, his body language reveals it. His energy is steady. His breath slows to match yours. He doesn't just hold you. He explores you, not out of curiosity alone, but out of it demands you be seen and that you see in return. It's risky. It's raw. And yet it's real. So when he slows down, ask yourself, is he with you or just near you? Is he aware of your reactions? Is he responsive to your needs or just acting out a routine? Because love doesn't rush. Love pays attention. Love breathes. You'll notice it in the way he caresses your skin, not just touches, but lingers. In nigh, the way he kisses you, not to move things along, but to make you feel known, in the way his eyes soften when he looks at you. Not scanning your body, but connecting with your presence. A man in love will find magic in the mundane. He will appreciate the stillness, the quiet. It's a message. It's his way of saying without speaking that you are enough. Not just your body, but your essence. That he sees you, that he's with you, that he's not trying to get somewhere because he's already exactly where he wants to be with you in this moment. Fully, that is the highest form of emotional maturity. That is stoicism at its most sensual. And it's rare because it requires discipline, devotion, and depth. When a man chooses to slow down, to resist the cultural programming that says faster is better, he's making devotion is what shows in the slowness. It's the man who notices the goosebumps on your skin, the way your breath changes, the tiny tremble in your fingers, the emotion behind your eyes. He's not scanning for visual cues to stroke his ego. He's paying attention because he wants to make you feel something deeper, something safe, something sacred. That's what love Stoic men do. They show up fully, they honor the present, move slowly, not because they're lost, but because they've arrived. He's not trying to impress you. He's trying to imprint something real on your soul. And once you've had that, once you've been with a man who slows down because he's emotionally available, because he's spiritually aligned, because he's deeply in love, you won't go back. You'll never again confuse frenzy for feeling. You'll stop settling for the thrill that ends quickly and start seeking the stillness that stays with you long after the night is over. You'll raise your standards not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. And in that clarity, you'll find peace. That's stoicism in love. That's the love Stoic way. Till he holds you after not just your body, but your heart. There's a moment that reveals everything. Not during the climax, not in the buildup, but in the stillness that follows. After the adrenaline fades, after the intensity slows, after the world stops spinning and all that's left is breath and silence, that moment is where the truth lives. Not every man stays, not every man holds you. Some roll away, some disconnect, some emotionally vanish into their phones, lull or distance, because for them the experience was transactional. It had a start and an end. It was about achieving something. And once it's done, so are they. But when a man is in love with you, truly deeply emotionally invested in the way that only Stoicism allows, he doesn't leave. He stays. He holds you, not to fill a silence, not to tick a box, but because he needs to, because your presence grounds him, because the stillness means something sacred. Love. Stoic men understand that intimacy doesn't end when the act does. In fact, for them, that's when the real intimacy begins. Because physical connection without emotional resonance is shallow. It's fleeting. It's empty. Holding you afterward, really holding you is an act of emotional presence, not physical obligation. When he wraps his arms around you, when he pulls you close, when his chest rises and falls in rhythm with yours, he's not just keeping you warm. He's saying, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. That embrace is not just a cuddle. It's a conversation, a silent language that speaks volumes.
Have you ever felt that kind of touch? The one that doesn't grab or grope or seek more, the one that simply stays. The one that makes you feel in every cell of your being that you are safe, wanted, adored. A man who holds you after doesn't just enjoy your body. He honors your heart. Because to him, this moment, this quiet is not a pause. It's a presence. And presence is everything. It tells you he's emotionally available, that he can handle vulnerability, that he's not afraid of stillness. Stillness is where love breathes, where fear dissolves, where truth emerges. When he stays with you in that raw, unfiltered moment, he's telling you something rare, that you matter. Not just the excitement of you, not just the thrill, but the real you, the human you, the woman beneath the surface, the heartbeat, the emotion. And when he breathes you in, when he nestles his face into your neck or simply lets his hand rest on your skin, he's anchoring himself in reality. He's not drifting away into thought or fantasy. He's rooting himself in the now. He's choosing to feel instead of flee. That choice is everything, because most people run from discomfort, from depth, from what intimacy actually demands. But not this man, not the one who understands stoicism, not as suppression, but as stillness, as self-control, presence, and emotional integrity. He holds you not because he's needy. He holds you because he's clear. Clear on what you mean to him. Clear on what connection really looks like. Clear on the fact that love isn't loud. It's consistent. And consistency means he doesn't check out the second his desire is satisfied. It means he shows up for the quiet parts, too. That's what love stoic men do. And make no mistake, the way a man treats you after lovemaking is one of the purest reflections of how he feels about you. It's not about words. It's not about poetry. It's about how he makes you feel when everything else fades. Does he pull you closer, or does he turn away? Does he keep space open for your emotions, or does he shut down the moment his body is done? Because a man who loves you doesn't see the ending of the act as the end of connection. He sees it as a doorway, a moment of access, a chance to deepen the bond, not retreat from it. He might not say much. He might just run his hand along your back, breathe with you in silence, or whisper something soft, but you'll feel it. The truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's quiet, but it always resonates. When a man holds you with intention, he's saying you're not just a moment. You're meaningful. And that meaning is what sets real love apart from performance. He doesn't disappear when the passion cools. He becomes even more present because he's not addicted to the high. He's anchored in the connection. And in that anchoring, he creates safety. Safety to feel, safety to be, safety to exhale. That's what emotional presence does. It gives you space to be fully yourself without fear of being discarded. And that space is rare. It's sacred. And it's powerful. It's the space where healing happens, where trust is built, where two people move from attraction to attachment in the healthiest possible way. If you've never felt this, then you've never truly been held. Not just touched, not just wrapped up, but held like you matter. Like your body is home. Not just a place to visit. Like your soul is welcome. Not just your skin. And if you have felt it, you know how different it is. How grounding, how nourishing, how unforgettable. You don't forget the man who stayed. You don't forget the man who didn't let go, because that kind of presence, that kind of stillness rewires you. It teaches you what love is supposed to feel like. And once you've tasted that, you'll never again settle for absence dressed up as interest. You'll stop making excuses for men who vanish after passion. You'll stop justifying emotional avoidance with words like, "That's just how he is." Because you'll know deep down in your bones, you'll know. If he wanted to stay, he would. If he felt connected, he'd hold you, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. A man who loves you won't treat you like a temporary fix. He'll treat you like a permanent presence. Even in silence, even in stillness, even in the dark, especially in, am I safe or just convenient? And if your answer leaves you cold, don't lower your standards. Raise your awareness. Real love doesn't walk away after climax. It wraps you up and says, I'm still here. And if this message resonates with you, if you've ever felt this kind of presence or now realize what you've been missing, then do something powerful. Like this video and comment number 1 below if this is the kind of connection you want to have experienced. Your voice matters. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe because we're not done. What comes next will challenge you, open your heart, and raise your standards, and you don't want to miss it. 3. He looks into your eyes and doesn't look away. Eye contact is one of the most powerful and vulnerable acts two human beings can share, especially during intimacy. It's more than a gaze. It's an emotional portal, a mirror that reveals presence, truth, and connection. And yet it's often avoided. Why? Because most people aren't emotionally safe enough to be seen. They fear exposure, fear what their eyes might betray, or worse, what they might see in yours. In the context of love and physical closeness, many men shut their eyes, bury their faces, or keep their attention fixed anywhere but on your eyes. Not because they don't care, but because it's too much. Eye contact demands presence. It demands you drop the performance and be fully there, but a grounded in stoicism and emotional maturity. Chooses to look. He chooses to stay. He chooses to hold your gaze, not as an act of dominance or seduction, but as a declaration. I see you. I am here. This is not about the act. This is about the connection. When he looks into your eyes and doesn't look away, something sacred happens. It creates a silent rhythm between your souls. It tells you that he's not using your body. He's letting himself be seen and at the same time offering to truly see you. That is the courage of love. That is the quiet fire of love, stoic men. Their willingness to stand firm in vulnerable moments, to stay present when most people retreat. Eye contact during intimacy is an invitation. Come deeper, feel more, let go. Most run from that, but the man who is truly in love will rise to meet you there. He will hold your gaze not just during the high moments, but in the stillness between them. He won't break eye contact to escape intensity. He'll use it to deepen connection. And when you look back at him, you'll feel something shift inside of you, a quiet recognition that you're not alone in this, that someone is truly with you, not just physically, but emotionally. That's what makes love feel safe. That's what turns a moment into a memory. And the longer he holds your gaze, the more you realize he's not looking at you like an object. He's looking into you like you're a soul. That kind of attention is disarming. It melts fear. It dissolves anxiety. It calms the body. Because finally, someone is not trying to take from you. They're trying to meet you. And that meeting, that eye-to-eye moment, is more intimate than any physical act could ever be. It's love distilled into a single glance. You can feel his emotion in the way he looks at you. It's not about arousal. It's about alignment. Alignment of body, mind, and heart. He sees you and stays. That's everything. That's stoicism in action. It's not cold. It's not detached. It's fiercely present and deeply tender. It says, I am strong enough to be soft. I am confident enough to be real. And when he holds your gaze while touching you, while being close to you, while sharing the most vulnerable parts of himself with you, he's offering you a kind of truth that no words could replace. He's saying this is not performance, this is presence. This is not fantasy. This is feeling. And if you look closely, you'll see it in his eyes. The desire to stay connected, the depth of emotion, the sincerity that cannot be rehearsed. You'll feel him holding space for you in his look. You'll sense the steadiness of his intention. And in that steadiness, you'll find yourself letting go because your nervous system can relax when you're truly seen. Your heart can open when it knows it won't be judged or discarded. That's the power of real love. And that's why his eyes matter more than anything he says, because they reveal the man he is when the mask is off. They show whether he's distracted or devoted, whether he's thinking about himself or feeling with you, whether he's chasing a moment or building a connection. Eye contact is where love lives. Not loud, not flashy, but steady. If he can't hold your gaze, if he looks away too quickly, if he can't meet you there, ask yourself, what is he hiding? What is he running from? Because love doesn't flinch. Love doesn't look away. Love leans in. It stays. It sees, and it softens. And the man who brings that kind of gaze into the bedroom is a man who brings his heart with him, not just his hands. He's not afraid of what he'll find in your eyes because he's not afraid of his own reflection. He's at peace with himself. That's what Stoicism teaches. That emotional mastery begins within. That presence begins with knowing who you are. And that only when a man has that internal clarity can he offer that steady, grounded attention to someone else. So when he looks into your eyes, it's not just love, it's strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to dominate to feel powerful. It simply holds space gently, consistently, without flinching. And in that space, you'll find truth. You'll find safety. You'll find love, quiet, powerful, enduring love. Not the kind that burns out, the kind that stays, the kind that sees you. 4, he asks what you like and truly listens to your answer. There's a difference between a man who asks what you like out of habit and a man who asks because he genuinely wants to know. And when you've experienced both, the contrast is undeniable. One feels like a script. The other feels like soul searching. A man who truly loves you, one who operates from stoicism and deep emotional presence, understands that intimacy isn't a one-size-fits-all performance. It's a co-created experience, fluid, personal, evolving. And to honor that, he must ask, not because he's unsure of himself, but because he knows that love is specific. It's not about what worked before with someone else. It's about what opens you, what softens you, what makes you feel cherished, not just wanted. When he asks what you like and truly listens, pauses, absorbs, and adapts, he is telling you your experience matters to me. He's not asking to get a gold star. He's not asking for validation or praise. He's asking because your joy, your safety, your pleasure are as important to him as his own. And that kind of attentiveness is rare in a world where speed and performance are glorified, where technique is often confused with connection. A man who slows down long enough to ask, to learn, and to remember stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. You'll notice it in the little things and how he doesn't just say, "Do you like that?" but how he actually changes what he's doing when you answer. In how he revisits the things you told him mattered to you not once, but repeatedly. In how he treats your feedback, not as criticism, but as a gift to him as his own. And that kind of attentiveness is rare in a world where speed and performance are glorified, where technique is often confused with connection. A man who slows down long enough to ask, to learn, and to remember stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. You'll notice it in the little things, in how he doesn't just say, "Do you like that?" but how he actually changes what he's doing when you answer. In how he revisits the things you told him mattered to you not once, but repeatedly. In how he treats your feedback not as criticism, but as a gift. That gift is your truth. And a man who can hold that without flinching is a man who sees your value. It means he respects your body as something sacred, not just something responsive. That's the core of love's stoic masculinity. Grounded, secure, tuned in, because only a man who is secure in himself can listen without ego, respond without defensiveness, and show up without an agenda. A man who listens is a man who leads with intention. And intention is everything. It tells you he's not winging it. He's not guessing. He's not copying what worked with someone else. He's discovering you moment by moment, word by word, breath by breath. And in that discovery, he's building something real, something that lasts. Because to him, your pleasure isn't a bonus. It's a responsibility, not a burden, not a performance metric, but an act of devotion. That's what Stoicism teaches. That we don't chase pleasure blindly. We elevate it consciously. That real intimacy isn't about intensity alone. It's about insight. And insight only comes when a man is quiet enough, still enough, humble enough to ask. When was the last time someone asked what you like and truly meant it? Not just as foreplay, not just to seem thoughtful, but because they were genuinely invested in your happiness. And when you told them, did they remember? Did they make it part of the way they loved you? Because that's the measure. Love isn't just in the asking, it's in the application. A man in love turns your words into ritual. He holds on to the things that light you up and incorporates them into how he loves you. He doesn't forget. He doesn't generalize. He studies you. Because to him, you're not just a partner. You're a universe. And every preference, every turn on, every emotion you share with him is a constellation he wants to learn how to navigate. That's not obsession. That's reverence. That's what it looks like when a man holds space for your whole self. Not just your body, but your voice, your opinions, your desires. A man who listens like that doesn't just give you pleasure. He gives you freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to explore, freedom to be exactly who you are without having to perform or pretend. And that kind of freedom heals. It rewrites stories. It resets standards. because suddenly you realize this is what it feels like to be emotionally safe, to be truly seen. And once you've felt that, you stop settling for silence. You stop calling it chemistry when it's really just compliance. You stop mistaking performance for presence, because now you know love asks, love listens, love remembers. And when a man combines that attentiveness with action, you feel it in the way he adjusts his pace, in the way he looks at you while you speak, in the way he thanks you, not always in words, but in devotion. Because to him, your pleasure is not a checklist. It's a conversation, ongoing, evolving, intimate. That conversation deepens the bond. It creates emotional equity. It builds trust. And when trust is built, desire grows. Because desire without safety is tension. But desire with safety, that's bliss. That's the kind of intimacy that makes you feel both excited and anchored. And the man who gives you that is a man worth cherishing. Because his love isn't about what he gets. It's about how he makes you feel. And when you feel seen, heard, valued, not just during sex, but because of how he approaches it, you know you're not just being loved, you're being honored. And that kind of love doesn't just happen. It's chosen. It's cultivated. It's offered by a man who has done the work, who has faced his ego, who has learned to lead with heart instead of pride, who has replaced performative masculinity with emotional responsibility. And that responsibility shows up every time he asks you what you like, every time he listens without judgment, every time he makes you feel safe enough to speak. That's how love speaks, not with grand declarations, but with quiet, consistent actions. If this resonates with you, if you know the power of being asked, heard, and seen, then help this message reach more women. Like this video and comment number 1 below to let us know this truth matters to you. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next part is something you won't want to miss. It's where intimacy becomes presence and presence becomes everything. 5, he stays emotionally present before, during, and after. Emotional presence is one of the rarest and most underrated traits a man can bring to intimacy. Not because it's difficult to develop, but because so few are willing to be fully available in moments that demand vulnerability, stillness, and depth. Presence is not just about showing up physically. It's about staying connected mentally, emotionally. He's grounded, aware, he's attuned to what's happening now, right here, right between the two of you. That kind of man doesn't disappear into his own needs. He doesn't let his focus slip into fantasy or his attention fragment into internal monologue. He's with you, not just touching your body, but feeling with you, feeling you, responding to you, co-creating something meaningful that cannot be rushed, repeated. This is where the principle of stoicism makes all the difference, because to stay emotionally present requires self-mastery. It requires a deep calm, the ability to be still in your own mind so you can fully witness another. Most people can't do that. They seek stimulation to escape from themselves. But a man in love, one who lives by the discipline of love, stoic integrity, knows how to remain still, grounded, and available, even when things become emotionally charged. Emotional presence before intimacy means he's not checking in only. When he wants something, he makes you feel seen long before the first touch. He connects with you in ways that have nothing to do with arousal, through curiosity, care. He doesn't retreat into silence or sleep or scrolling. He stays open. His presence lingers. Maybe it's in the way he holds you. Maybe it's in the questions he gently asks. Maybe it's in the way he just breathes with you, letting the moment stretch out as long as it needs. He's not in a rush to move on. He's not looking for the next hit of stimulation, because for him, the after is just as sacred as the before and the during. It's not about what happened. It's about how he holds space for what happened. That holding of you, of the energy, of the emotion, is what makes love feel whole. And so few men do this because emotional presence requires inner stillness. It requires discipline. It requires a man to be fully aligned within himself so he doesn't seek distraction from discomfort. Most people look away when it gets too real, but this man, he stays. That's what makes him different. That's what makes him unforgettable. He's not just giving you his body, he's giving you his attention. And that attention is undivided. It's steady, it's nourishing. When he's with you, you don't feel like a task to be completed or a challenge to be conquered. You feel like a person being honored. And that feeling can't be fabricated. You'll know it when you feel it. You'll know it because it will calm your nervous system. ease your mind, and open your heart. You'll feel your own presence deepening in response to him, because presence is contagious. And when a man leads with it, he gives you permission to match it, to slow down, to stay open, to not brace or retreat or perform, to simply be. That is the space where intimacy thrives. Not in the friction, but in the focus. And when he brings that kind of focus to you, not just once, but always, it becomes a form of devotion, a way of saying, I care enough to stay here with you, for you, without needing to escape. That's what Stoicism looks like when expressed through love. Not detached, not distant, but grounded, intentional, fully alive to the moment. He doesn't just show up for the peak. He stays for the valley. He stays when the energy shifts, when the silence enters, when the vulnerability gets thick. And in staying, he offers you something few people ever do: emotional safety that doesn't dissolve when the pleasure ends. That kind of consistency is love in action. And love in action is never loud. It's steady, it's subtle, it's sustained, and it feels like coming home not just to someone else, but to yourself. Because when a man holds space for your full presence, you remember who you are. You drop the roles, you release the tension, you let go of the need to manage or impress or perform. And in that letting go, love expands. Not just romantic love, but self-love. That's the ripple effect of emotional presence. It doesn't just make the moment better, it makes you better. It raises your standards. It rewires your expectations. It realigns your heart with what is real. And real is what lasts. Not the fantasy, not the friction, the real, the presence, the quiet truth that stays with you. Not because it shouted, but because it never left. 6, he shows softness not out of weakness, but emotional strength. There is a profound misconception in the world today that softness is weakness, that vulnerability makes a man less masculine, that tenderness somehow undermines strength. But nothing could be further from the truth. A man who dares to be soft in moments of intimacy is not revealing a flaw. He's revealing power. The power of presence, of courage, of love that is not afraid to be felt, because softness is not the absence of strength. It is the ultimate proof of it. It is the discipline to remain open when it would be easier to close. The resolve to stay grounded when emotion rises. Ability to feel without flinching. To hold without hardening. That is what Stoicism at its highest level teaches. Not to suppress or avoid, but to be sovereign in the middle of intensity. And when a man truly loves you, when his feelings are real, he doesn't armor up during intimacy. He opens, his touch changes, his tone changes, his entire energy becomes more attuned, more gentle, more reverent. This is not a performance. It's a reflection of the depth of his feeling. He's not rushing, not controlling, not detaching. He's showing you the version of himself that few others ever get to see. The part of him that doesn't need to be right or dominant or unshakable. The part of him that simply wants to be real. And you'll know it when you feel it. When he touches you with presence and patience, when he pulls you into him and you feel not tension, but tenderness. When he breathes you in, not as a possession, but as a presence. That softness tells you everything. It tells you that this isn't just physical, that he's not afraid to be affected by you, that he's willing to slow down, let go, and simply be with you. Not as a protector, not as a performer, but as a person, as a soul. And that is rare, because most men are trained to believe that emotion is a liability, that softness will make them seem weak or unsure or unworthy. But the truth is, only a man with deep internal stability can afford to be soft because he has nothing to prove. He's not performing masculinity. He's living it. He's embodying a version of love that is strong enough to hold space for vulnerability. That version of love is rooted in stoicism, not the shallow version that avoids feelings, but the evolved version that faces them. And when that love reaches you, it feels like safety. It feels like home. It feels like trust that doesn't need to be earned every second because it's already there, embedded in the way he looks at you, touches you, holds you. He doesn't have to say much. You feel it in his actions, in the way he wraps you up after everything else falls quiet, in the way he gently strokes your hair or holds your hand against his chest, in the way he lets the moment stretch without rushing to disconnect. That softness speaks volumes. It says, I don't want to let go. I don't need to dominate this moment. I just want to be in it with you completely. And in that softness, something awakens in you too. You let your guard down, you breathe deeper, you feel safe, not because he told you so, but because your body believes it. And that kind of emotional safety is the soil where real love grows. It's the opposite of manipulation. It's not about seduction, it's about devotion. And devotion shows up in the quiet moments most people miss. The way he stays instead of retreating. The way he lingers in your presence like it's something sacred. The way he shows affection without agenda. That kind of man isn't everywhere, but when you find him, you'll know because he'll change the way you experience love. You'll stop chasing intensity. You'll start seeking consistency. You'll stop confusing hardness for security. You'll start recognizing that the strongest thing a man can do is feel and stay present with that feeling, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when it's vulnerable, especially when it requires him to be soft. That softness is a bridge to your heart, and it's also a mirror reflecting back the truth that you are worth that level of care, that you don't have to perform to be held, that you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You only have to be real. And that's what his softness invites. Your realness, your truth, your full expression, because he's not afraid of it. He's not intimidated by your depth. He's made peace with his own. And that peace makes him powerful. This is what love stoic masculinity looks like in its highest form. It's not rigid. It's not performative. It's deeply alive. It listens. It adapts. It honors. And it holds. And when a man loves you in this way, with softness and strength, with presence and peace, you feel it in your soul. You don't have to guess. You don't have to ask. You just know. You feel it in the way he doesn't flinch when you cry, in the way he stays connected when emotions rise, in the way he chooses you, not just in the exciting moments, but in the quiet ones. That kind of man is rare. That kind of love is, and if this is the kind of love you want, if this is the kind of man you're ready to call into your life, then honor that desire. Like this video and comment number 1 if you feel this in your heart, and subscribe, because this conversation is just getting started and you deserve every piece of truth we're about to explore. Live truths, and they cannot be faked by a man who is not emotionally mature, who has not done the internal work to be available, calm, grounded, and vulnerable. These are not signs of romance. They are signs of inner alignment. They are the fruits of a man who understands stoicism, not as emotional coldness, but as emotional strength. He doesn't need to dominate to feel powerful. He doesn't need to withdraw to protect his pride. He remains. He softens. He asks. He listens. He slows down. He stays present. And he sees you. A man like this doesn't just want you. He respects you. He honors what it means to truly share space, to co-create intimacy, and to give love with intention instead of performance. That's the essence of love, stoic living. It's not about suppressing feeling. It's about creating enough inner clarity that feelings can be shared cleanly, powerfully, and without fear. When a man reaches this level of emotional integrity, everything about how he loves changes. He doesn't flinch from depth. He doesn't hide behind fast moves or empty questions. He slows down because he wants to savor the moment. He holds you after because the connection doesn't end when the act does. He locks eyes with you because he's not afraid to be seen. He asks what you like because your truth matters. He stays emotionally present because distraction is no match for connection. And he shows softness not to prove anything, but because nothing else could possibly feel more true. You are not asking for too much. Listens. He slows down, he stays present, and he sees you. A man like this doesn't just want you. He respects you. He honors what it means to truly share space, to co-create intimacy, and to give love with intention instead of performance. That's the essence of love stoic living. It's not about suppressing feelings. It's about creating enough inner clarity that feelings can be shared cleanly, powerfully, and without fear. When a man reaches this level of emotional integrity, everything about how he loves changes. He doesn't flinch from depth. He doesn't hide behind fast moves or empty questions. He slows down because he wants to savor the moment. He holds you after because the connection doesn't end when the act does. He locks eyes with you because he's not afraid to be seen. He asks what you like because your truth matters. He stays emotionally present because distraction is no match for connection. And he shows softness not to prove anything, but because nothing else could possibly feel more true. You are not asking for too much. You are simply awakening to what is real. And once you've seen love in this form, stoic, intentional, emotionally available, you will never again confuse intensity with intimacy or passion with presence, because now you know. And with that knowing, you hold the power to choose, to raise your standard, to wait for the man who doesn't just show up, but stays, softens, listens, holds, and loves you completely and without apology. Not because he has to, but because that is who he is. Let's be honest for a second. How many times have you thought, what makes a man truly choose one woman for life while letting go of another without hesitation? It's one of the most frustrating, confusing, and let's be real, soul-crushing experiences to feel like you gave your all and still weren't the one. And the worst part, you were probably taught the wrong things from the start. Maybe you thought being nice, being beautiful, or being agreeable would seal the deal, or that saying the right words at the right moment would magically make him see your worth. But let me ask you, how's that worked out for you so far? Here's the truth. Most women are never told. Men don't choose a future wife based on surface-level traits. They choose her based on something deeper, something felt rather than seen. This is where most advice fails you. It teaches you how to look, but not how to be. And in a world where attention is cheap and commitment is rare, the real currency is depth. That's where you become the woman he can't walk away from. And no, it's not about playing games. It's about embodying timeless, undeniable traits that trigger something deep in a man's psychology, something primal, something real. In this video, we're diving into 6 powerful traits that instantly make a man see you not as a temporary companion, but as a woman worth building a future with. We're not talking fluff. This is stoicism meets modern attraction. It's about self-mastery, emotional clarity, and inner power. If you've ever felt like you were almost the one, but somehow not enough to be the one, this will change everything. Because the truth is, the moment you shift from chasing love to embodying worth, everything changes. He sees it, he feels it, he responds to it. This isn't about manipulation, it's about clarity. It's not about controlling a man, it's about controlling yourself. Because a man doesn't fall for a woman's efforts, he falls for her energy. And when you understand what makes that energy magnetic, you stop trying to be chosen and start standing as the choice. So lean in, get ready, because by the end of this video, you won't just understand what makes a man commit. You'll start living it. And trust me, you'll never look at love the same way again. Stick with me until the last trait, because it's the one most women overlook, and it's the exact reason why so many amazing women stay single, confused, or stuck in situationships. If you're ready to shift the way you date forever, welcome to Love Stoic. Let's dive in. 1. She has a clear vision for her life. A man is instantly drawn to a woman who knows where she's going. She doesn't need a relationship to define her. She's driven, passionate, and grounded in her own mission. This sense of purpose is magnetic. It shows him she's not waiting to be completed. She's building something and inviting the right man to build with her. When a woman has a clear vision for her life, she radiates a kind of clarity that no amount of beauty or charm can replicate. And here's the thing, men feel this. They sense whether you have direction or whether you're just floating, hoping love will give your life meaning. But have you ever asked yourself what happens when the relationship ends or when love is tested by hardship? Who are you outside of romance? A woman with vision never loses herself because she was never trying to be someone else to begin with. A man might be enchanted by beauty, but he commits to depth. The woman who wakes up with goals, who challenges herself to grow, who is excited about her own future, that's the woman who becomes unforgettable. Because when a man sees that you're not just seeking a role in his life, but you're playing the lead in your own, he views you through a different lens. You're no longer someone who needs him to feel whole. You're someone who invites him into a partnership of purpose. And let's be real, how many times have you felt like you had to dim your ambitions to make a man stay? How many times have you been told you're intimidating because you dream big, because you think independently, because you expect more from life than just being someone's girlfriend? The reality is, a man who is worthy of your light will never ask you to dim it. And the man who sees you as his future wife is the one who doesn't want you to shrink. He wants to rise with you. A clear vision doesn't mean you have everything figured out. It means you have direction. You have standards. You have values that guide your decisions, relationships, and priorities. And when you live like that, your presence shifts. You stop feeling anxious about where things are going with him because you're grounded in where you're going. That shift, that's power. That's stoicism in practice. Rooting yourself in purpose, not in outcomes. That's the difference between chasing validation and owning your worth. The more you invest in your purpose, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're trying to impress a man, but because you're inspiring yourself. And that energy is irresistible. Think about it. When was the last time you met someone so lit up by their own goals that you couldn't help but admire them? That's what you become when you live with vision. You command attention without asking for it. You inspire love without begging for it. You become the woman a man respects, admires, and most of all fears losing. The fear of loss doesn't come from drama or insecurity. It comes from value. And a woman with a vision for her life carries undeniable value. When you have purpose, you stop tolerating distractions. You stop entertaining men who breadcrumb you. You stop wasting energy on situationships that drain your confidence. You're too focused on your future to be derailed by indecisive energy. That's the shift from survival to intention. That's what we teach here at Love Stoic. To step into your life like it matters, because it does, not just for your future relationship but for your legacy. A man wants to see if you're someone he can build with. If you're already building, he sees it, he respects it, and he starts imagining his life with a woman like you. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. That's the secret. No one tells you. The more you become obsessed with your own path, the more you attract men who want to walk it with you. And when a man senses that your time, your energy, and your heart are valuable, not in a performative way but in the way you live, he starts showing up differently. He stops playing games. He steps forward with clarity because he knows that a woman with vision won't stick around for anything less than alignment. So ask yourself right now, if a man entered your life today, would he find you in motion or waiting? Would he see a woman he needs to lead or a woman he wants to keep up with? That distinction changes everything. And if your answer is not what you hoped, good. Because awareness is where transformation begins. The beautiful thing about vision is that it's not gifted, it's chosen. You don't need permission to start pursuing the life you were born to live. You just need the courage to begin. And here's where stoicism becomes your compass. It's not about suppressing desire, it's about directing it. It's about showing up for your purpose, even on days when it's inconvenient, even when it feels lonely, even when love feels far away. Because every time you choose your vision over comfort, you become more of the woman he can't walk away from. Love doesn't complete your purpose, it supports it. And the right man will never compete with your mission. He will honor it, protect it, and align with it. That's the man who sees you not as a fantasy but as a future. So start living like a woman whose life is already rich with purpose. Start acting like the prize, not by demanding it, but by being it. Because in a world full of noise, trends, and temporary attraction, clarity is rare. Depth is rare. A woman building something is rare. And that's why she's unforgettable. If you want to be the woman who isn't afraid to walk alone for a while because she's walking towards something that matters, you're already halfway there. That's the woman a man sees as his forever. Not because she said all the right things, but because she lived them. That's what we live and breathe at Love Stoic. Power, presence, purpose. And when those three align, you don't chase love. You attract it. The man, the respect, the commitment, and most of all, the life you were meant for. Stay grounded, stay committed, stay elevated. Because your vision isn't just yours, it's your filter. And once it's clear, the right man won't miss you. He won't hesitate. He'll rise just like you did. 2. She commands respect without saying a word. Self-respect changes everything. It is not about arrogance or pride. It is about how you treat yourself when no one is watching and how that standard trains others to treat you in return. A woman who commands respect doesn't need to raise her voice or prove herself endlessly. She operates with a quiet power, a calm certainty that says, I know my worth and I will not settle for less. And here's the twist. Men feel this energy before a single word is spoken. It's not in how much you give, it's in what you refuse to accept. Have you ever wondered why some women never have to beg for attention while others always seem to be chasing it? The difference is not in looks, it's in boundaries. A woman of self-respect has internal lines drawn so clearly that any man who crosses them is immediately held accountable, not with rage or drama but with composure. That calm, unshakable grace, that's what separates her from the rest. And it's exactly what makes a high-value man stop and think she's different. When you walk in self-respect, you're not reacting, you're responding. You don't tolerate disrespect even in small forms. The joke at your expense, the flirty message from his ex he didn't address. The way he keeps you on red for days and then shows up like nothing happened, those things don't go unnoticed. But the difference is a woman with self-respect doesn't start arguments. She starts exits. She removes herself with elegance, not with chaos, because she understands a powerful truth. People treat you according to what you tolerate. When a woman allows repeated mistreatment, excuses it, or explains it away, she teaches a man how to minimize her value. And once that perception is lowered, the relationship is no longer a partnership. It becomes a convenience. Respect is never begged for. It's earned through the way you carry yourself. This is what we practice in Stoicism. Mastering your emotions, defining your standards, and staying true to them no matter what external situation arises. That is your power. And let's get brutally honest. Many women today confuse flexibility with lack of standards. They think they're being understanding when in reality they're being walked on. Men don't fall in love with women who have no boundaries. They might use them. They might enjoy the benefits of their time and affection, but they don't respect them. And without respect, love cannot survive. Ask yourself, what do you tolerate that you know deep down you shouldn't? What behavior have you been excusing out of fear that setting a boundary will push him away? Because the truth is, if your boundary pushes him away, he was never yours to begin with. Self-respect isn't a weapon. It's a mirror. It reflects what you believe about yourself. And if you keep attracting men who disappoint you, it's time to stop pointing fingers and start looking inward. What version of yourself have you been showing them? What have you been silently communicating about your standards? The language of self-respect is not loud. It's quiet power. It's in the way you move, the tone you use, the decisiveness in your voice when you say, that doesn't work for me. It's in the confidence to walk away without waiting for closure. It's in trusting that losing a man is better than losing yourself. Think about this deeply. How much of your time, your love, your energy have you invested in proving to someone that you're worth staying for? And how much of that effort was met with half-hearted gestures or inconsistency? There comes a moment when a woman gets tired not from giving love but from giving it to the wrong person. That's the moment her self-respect awakens. She starts saying no more often, not to punish but to protect. She stops explaining herself and starts observing. She doesn't need to make anyone see her worth. She simply aligns with it. And that alignment is magnetic. A man who truly wants to build something lasting will not be scared off by your standards. He will be guided by them because deep down he wants a woman who makes him step up, not one who lowers herself to keep him around. This is the paradox. The more you chase a man, the less he values you. But the more you choose yourself, the more the right man values that choice. And this is why Love Stoic emphasizes emotional discipline. Not to become cold or indifferent, but to become grounded. You stop leaking energy into things that don't return your worth. You stop over-explaining your feelings to people who don't value them. You stop negotiating your standards for temporary affection. And that changes your entire love life. A man doesn't stay for the woman who bends over backwards. He stays for the one who stands tall. He stays for the woman who doesn't flinch at the threat of his absence because she was never afraid of being alone to begin with. That self-trust is rare. That energy is unforgettable. And let me say this clearly, men test women. Sometimes consciously, sometimes not. But they observe how you react. They notice if you chase them after disrespect. They notice if you allow their silence, their inconsistency, their excuses. And based on your reaction, they place you in one of two categories: temporary distraction or long-term potential. Which one are you showing up as? Not by what you say, but by what you allow. You don't have to scream, fight, or prove anything to be respected. You just have to live by your values without apology. And when you do, everything shifts. You start attracting different energy. You start moving through the world differently. You start commanding the kind of respect that leads to commitment, not out of pressure, but out of admiration. Men don't commit to convenience. They commit to women who make them level up. Not by force, but by presence. That's what self-respect creates. Presence. The kind that says, I'm not here to be chosen, I'm here to choose. The kind that doesn't wait for a man to show up right, but creates a life so aligned that only the right one fits. And if you're listening to this thinking, I've tolerated too much, good. That awareness is power. Now shift. Stop explaining. Start aligning. Ask yourself, what would a woman who respects herself do in this moment? And do that, because when you start living that way, you stop wasting time on men who can't rise to meet you. And that's the moment a high-value man sees you differently. Not as someone to pass the time with, but as someone he doesn't want to lose. Because in a world full of noise, desperation, and approval-seeking, your calm confidence is a signal. It's the voice that says, I will not chase love. I will attract it by being whole. And that, more than anything else, makes a man see you as his future. If you felt this message, make sure you like this video and comment number 1 below to let me know it hit home. And if you're ready to keep growing in power, clarity, and connection, don't forget to subscribe. This is just the beginning. Welcome to Love Stoic. 3. She brings emotional stability, not chaos. A woman's emotional stability is not just an attractive trait. It is a foundation, a life force, a compass that steers the entire direction of a relationship. It is the calm during the storm, the clarity during conflict, the presence during pressure. While the world celebrates excitement, drama, and passion, what truly makes a man stay is peace. Not boredom, not emotional deadness, but peace. The kind of peace that says, no matter what happens out there, we're good in here. A woman who operates from emotional stability doesn't need to control, overreact, or manipulate. She observes, she feels, she responds without becoming a slave to the waves of every emotion. Men are biologically wired to avoid chaos and long-term decisions, and that is not opinion, it is pattern. They want someone who will not magnify stress but balance it, who will not turn disagreements into emotional warfare, but into an opportunity to connect. That is power, that is maturity, that is rare. Emotional regulation is a skill that turns a moment of potential destruction into a gateway for deeper intimacy. When a woman doesn't spiral into blame, accusations, or past resentments, but instead communicates with grounded presence, she becomes a safe space. And that, more than any physical trait, is what makes her unforgettable. Think about the last time you were emotionally triggered. Did you lash out, shut down, try to control, or did you breathe, process, and respond with clarity? Because the truth is, it's not about never getting upset. It's about how you handle the upset. That's where stoicism lives. Not in the absence of feeling, but in the discipline of directing feeling. A stoic woman doesn't pretend things don't hurt. She simply refuses to let the hurt define her actions. She pauses, she watches, she chooses. And that choice, especially in moments of conflict, is the difference between a relationship that grows and one that fractures. When a man sees that he can come to you with truth, even if it's hard, without being destroyed, he begins to trust you in a way that goes beyond attraction. You become his refuge, his anchor, his clarity. And let's be honest, emotional chaos might be thrilling in the short term, but it burns out fast. That roller coaster energy drains both people. And a man with vision, with goals, with a mission, he will not risk his legacy on instability. He wants depth. He wants assurance. He wants someone who can face life's inevitable storms without turning every wave into a tsunami. And this isn't about being passive. It's about being wise. Wisdom knows when to speak, when to listen, when to hold space, and when to draw the line. A woman who thrives in her emotional maturity understands that not every feeling deserves a reaction. Not every disappointment needs to turn into drama. She holds the space within herself. She validates her own experience. And from that place, she speaks truth, not blame. She offers solution, not war. Can you imagine how rare that is in today's world when everything is reactive, impulsive, and emotionally driven? Being the one who can stay centered is magnetic. Men remember that they feel safe with that. And safety is sexy when it's rooted in strength. Ask yourself, do you bring more peace or pressure into your relationships? Do you create emotional clarity or confusion? Do you respond with presence or react with pain? These are not questions of perfection, but of power. Because the woman who understands her emotional power becomes a magnet for high-quality men. She's not begging for reassurance. She's already anchored. She's not depending on external behavior to feel stable. She's mastered herself. And that self-mastery is the heart of Stoicism. In fact, Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That is the core of emotional stability. Knowing that how you respond is always within your power. And here's the twist. When you show up with this kind of inner calm, it invites emotional safety in your partner. Men open up more, they reveal more, they stop hiding, not because you forced them, but because your energy made it safe. The right man won't be a revere of your emotions, but he will be drawn to how you handle them. Emotional drama repels, emotional wisdom attracts, and you don't need to suppress your feelings to have emotional wisdom. You just need to learn to own them, to speak them clearly, to direct them purposefully. And when you do, you shift the entire emotional climate of your relationship. That shift is not small, it is transformational. Imagine two women, one who breaks down every time she feels insecure, demands validation, and weaponizes emotion to control the relationship. And another who feels the same fears, the same doubts, but pauses, breathes, and speaks from grounded clarity. Which one do you think a man sees as a long-term partner? Which one makes him say, "I trust her with my heart"? That is the question, and the answer is clear. The The woman who becomes a sanctuary for herself becomes a sanctuary for the man she's with. And not in a self-sacrificing way, but in a sovereign, solid, self-respecting way. That is power. That is peace. That is the woman who becomes unforgettable. She knows when to walk away from chaos. She knows when to hold space for healing. She knows when to stay silent and when to speak with full conviction. She's not reactive. She's responsive. She's not emotionally fragile. She's emotionally fluent. And men feel the difference. One drains, one builds. And the truth is, most men have been in relationships that drain them emotionally. So when they meet a woman who brings clarity instead of confusion, softness instead of spice, understanding instead of interrogation, they hold on. They lean in. They choose. Because emotional stability is not just for conflict. It is for life, for parenting, for marriage, for growth, for navigating the hard stuff that will inevitably come. And if you are that woman, strong, clear, calm under pressure, you don't just become a girlfriend, you become a life partner, a foundation, a future. That's what we embody at Love Stoic. Not to pretend we're emotionless, but to remember that our emotions are not enemies. They are messengers, and it's our job to listen, not to be ruled, to own them, not to unleash them, to integrate them, not to dump them onto others. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you unforgettable. 4. She inspires him to be better. The woman who inspires a man to grow doesn't do it by force. She doesn't nag, criticize, or try to fix him. Instead, she leads by example. Her presence alone becomes a silent challenge for him to rise. It's the way she wakes up with purpose, the way she pushes herself to evolve, the way she holds herself to higher standards that makes a man stop and think, am I becoming the kind of man she deserves? This isn't manipulation, it's magnetism. And it works not because she asks for more, but because she is more. A man who is serious about his future doesn't want to be coddled. He wants to be challenged in the best way. And the woman who pushes him to be better, simply by being herself, becomes unforgettable. She doesn't give lectures. She gives him a vision of what's possible when two people grow together. Have you ever been around someone whose ambition ignites something in you? That's her. That's the energy of a woman who doesn't settle for mediocrity. Not in herself, not in the people around her. And men feel this energy deep in their core. It's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's elevating. When she speaks about her goals, it isn't to impress, it's to inspire. When she encourages him, it's not with pressure, it's with belief. And that belief, it shifts a man's internal compass. He starts holding himself to higher standards. He starts checking his habits. He starts thinking beyond the moment. Why? Because he doesn't want to lose the woman who makes him feel like he's becoming more of who he was meant to be. And here's what most people miss. True feminine power isn't in controlling a man. It's in awakening the greatness within him. And that only happens when a woman is deeply committed to her own evolution. She doesn't need to see potential in a man. She needs to see progress because she's doing the same thing in her own life. And this is where stoicism plays such a vital role. A stoic woman doesn't need to preach change. She embodies it. She wakes up with discipline. She follows through. She commits to growth without applause. And that quiet consistency speaks louder than any words ever could. Men respect that. They admire it. And when they see it in a woman, they realize this is rare, because in a world of temporary pleasure, she is long-term substance. In a culture that rewards shortcuts, she is the process, and that process is powerful. So let's ask some real questions. When you speak about your dreams, do you speak from fear or from fire? When you show up in a man's life, do you add pressure or do you add perspective? Are you living in a way that elevates not just yourself, but anyone who gets close to you? Because that's the test. That's the standard. That's what separates a woman who's simply interesting from a woman who's transformational. And that's who a man wants by his side. Not someone to drag along, but someone who pushes him forward. He wants the kind of woman who, even in silence, makes him want to become more, who inspires him to get his finances right, to check his integrity, to lead with character, not ego. She's not impressed by talk. She watches action. And he knows this. That accountability, that subtle expectation of excellence, it's not pressure, it's purpose. And it changes how he moves, how he speaks, how he treats her, because she doesn't demand respect. She lives in a way that commands it. And in doing so, she draws out the leader in him, the protector, the visionary, the version of himself that he may not even fully know yet, but that he wants to become for her. Not to earn her love, but to match it. That's the effect of a woman who walks in purpose. That's the legacy of Love Stoic. A woman who builds herself so intentionally that any man who joins her has to elevate or exit. There is no middle ground. And this is what women need to understand. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally attract a man who wants to evolve, not escape. And if he doesn't want to rise, he will walk away, and you will let him because you are not afraid to lose what doesn't align. That's not ego, that's self-respect. And self-respect is the beginning of legacy. So if you're wondering why certain men lose interest once you start leveling up, it's because your elevation exposed their stagnation. And that's a good thing, because the man who is meant for you will not be intimidated by your growth. He will be inspired by it. He won't try to dim your light. He'll stand next to it and shine brighter, because the right man doesn't fear a powerful woman. He values her. He listens to her. He watches how she moves, how she reacts, how she keeps herself accountable. And in that watching, he learns to raise the bar for himself. That's the quiet miracle of masculine-feminine polarity at its highest level. She doesn't try to fix him. She fixes herself, and he meets her there, or he doesn't. And she walks. Either way, her standard remains. So let me ask you this. Are you building yourself in a way that makes a man want to grow? Are you focused on your journey, your discipline, your development, not for applause, but for alignment? Because the more you invest in your own potential, the more you force others to rise or fall away. That's why presence is everything. Presence isn't loud, it's not performative, it's felt. It lingers in the room long after you leave. It shifts energy without a single word. And that kind of woman, she's unforgettable because she isn't trying to be chosen. She's too busy becoming. And that becoming makes a man choose not impulsively but consciously, not for a season but for life. So if you want to be the woman a man builds with, be the woman who's already building. Build your mind, build your values, build your peace, build your legacy, and watch how he steps up. Not because you asked, but because your presence left him no other option. If this resonated with you, make sure you like this video, comment number 1 down below, and hit that subscribe button for more content that elevates you in every area of life. We're building a community of women who don't wait to be chosen. We walk in purpose and let the right men rise to meet us. Welcome to Love Stoic. 5. She doesn't fear walking away from the wrong man. A woman who isn't afraid to walk away from the wrong man holds a kind of power that changes the entire dynamic of a relationship. She is not reckless. She is not cold. She is clear. Clear on what she wants, what she deserves, and what she will no longer accept. That clarity doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from wisdom, from lived experience, from heartbreaks that taught her to value herself more than temporary comfort. When a man senses that you're not afraid to lose him, he treats you differently. Not because you're threatening him, but because your presence carries weight. You're not easily impressed. You're not begging for validation. You're not seeking to be saved. You're whole, and wholeness doesn't cling. It chooses. So let's be real. How many times have you stayed longer than you should have, hoping that if you loved him harder, tolerated a little more, or waited just a little longer, he would change? How many times have you silenced your needs to keep the peace, or ignored your intuition because you were scared to start over? That fear of being alone is one of the biggest lies we're taught as women. But the truth is, there's nothing lonelier than staying in a relationship where you're not valued. The moment you begin to honor your own standards more than your desire to be chosen, you unlock a new level of freedom. That freedom makes you magnetic. Because while others are compromising their self-worth to keep a man, you're walking away from anything that compromises your peace. And here's the twist. A high-value man doesn't want a woman who stays no matter what. He wants a woman who knows when to leave. He wants a woman who makes him earn her loyalty, not by playing games, but by living with standards. And that's the essence of stoicism. It's the ability to separate desire from wisdom, to feel deeply, but act from principle. To love someone and still choose to walk away when your boundaries are crossed. That strength is rare. That emotional discipline is power, because the woman who stays out of fear is easily controlled. But the woman who leaves out of clarity is unforgettable. When a man knows that your love is not for sale, that your presence is not permanent without respect, he recalibrates. He either rises or he leaves. And either outcome is a win for you, because you're no longer operating from scarcity. You're operating from alignment. That energy is felt. It's in the way you move, the way you respond, the way you don't chase closure or beg to be understood. You simply decide. And when you make decisions from a place of self-worth, the world responds. Men respond. You stop attracting chaos and start inviting clarity. You stop repeating patterns and start creating peace. And here's the thing. This doesn't make you hard or jaded. It makes you discerning. You don't walk away easily, but when it's time, you don't hesitate because you've learned that staying in the wrong relationship costs more than leaving it. It costs your joy, your confidence, your time, your future, and no man is worth that price. The right man will never ask you to betray yourself. He'll admire that you walk in truth, that you don't compromise your soul to keep a connection alive, that you don't sacrifice your sanity for temporary affection. And if he can't meet you there, you bless him, release him, and move on. That kind of emotional maturity is rare, and that's why it's powerful. A man may enjoy a woman who needs him, but he respects a woman who doesn't, who can stand on her own, who loves by choice, not by need, who shows up fully, but is willing to walk away if the relationship no longer honors her. That is sovereignty. That is the foundation of every lasting relationship, rooted in respect. So let me ask you, what have you been tolerating that your future self will regret? What boundaries have you ignored because you were scared of losing him? What pieces of yourself have you given away just to feel temporarily loved? Because every time you stay in a situation that doesn't honor you, you teach yourself that you're not worth more. And that internal message becomes your reality. But the moment you say no more, everything shifts. Your standard rises, your energy rises, and the quality of men who approach you rises too. Because when you move like you're not afraid to start over, you stop settling for halfway love. You stop investing in men who give you crumbs. You stop trying to change people who don't want to grow. Instead, you focus on becoming the kind of woman who doesn't just attract love. She aligns with it. That alignment comes from truth. And sometimes truth requires goodbye. Goodbye to the man who won't choose you. Goodbye to the potential that never became reality. Goodbye to the version of yourself who tolerated what was never meant for her. Because on the other side of that goodbye is freedom, peace, purpose. You won't find love by begging for it. You'll find it by becoming it. And love never requires you to abandon yourself ever. If you have to lose yourself to keep him, you've already lost. The woman who is willing to walk away carries an energy of peace, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much to settle. And that energy is unforgettable. A man remembers the woman who didn't flinch when he gave less than she deserved, who didn't chase when he pulled away, who didn't explain herself when he disrespected her. He remembers her silence, her strength, her decision to leave. And in that moment, he realizes she was the one, not because she stayed, but because she knew when to go. That's what Love Stoic is about. Teaching women to be so rooted in their values that love becomes a byproduct of alignment, not an escape from loneliness. It's about becoming so full within yourself that your presence is a gift, not a need. And when you live like that, the right man will never take you for granted because he knows that you can love him fully and still leave. If the relationship dishonors you, that balance, that duality, that's what makes you powerful. Not every relationship will last, but every relationship will teach. And the lesson that matters most is this: never lose yourself trying to keep someone else. If you felt that, then you're ready for the next level of love. A love that doesn't require self-abandonment. A love that respects your boundaries. A love that feels safe, not suffocating. And it begins the moment you choose to stop settling for anything less. 6. She communicates with confidence and clarity. The way a woman communicates is one of the clearest indicators of how much she respects herself and how deeply a man will respect her in return. It's not about being loud, dominant, or hyper-independent. It's about presence. A calm, confident presence that doesn't need to shout to be heard or manipulate to be felt. A woman who communicates with clarity creates safety, emotional safety, intellectual respect, and psychological attraction. Because a man doesn't just hear her words, he experiences her calm. He remembers how she made him feel, especially in moments of tension. Have you ever noticed how some women can say less but be remembered more? It's because they speak from grounded energy, not emotional chaos. That steadiness is rare, and it's not just attractive, it's foundational. It becomes the glue in a relationship, the grounding force in times of conflict, the quiet leadership that men come to admire more than any other trait. A woman who speaks clearly about her needs, without guilt, who sets boundaries without apology, who expresses her desires without drama. That woman earns respect because she respects herself enough not to play games. She doesn't weaponize silence. She doesn't use manipulation to control. She uses her words to connect, not to confuse. And that kind of communication is exactly what a man needs to see you as his future. Because in the long run, beauty fades, but communication endures. Shared goals mean nothing if you can't talk about problems. Chemistry dies quickly if every disagreement turns into emotional warfare. A real man doesn't just want a woman who looks good beside him. He wants a woman who can speak life, vision, peace, and strength into the relationship. And that happens one conversation at a time. So ask yourself, when you're upset, do you communicate your truth with intention, or do you explode with impulse? Do you use your words to heal or to harm? Are your boundaries spoken clearly or hidden in resentment? The woman who speaks like a queen doesn't raise her voice. She raises her standard. She doesn't over-explain. She expresses herself and lets her actions mirror her words. That harmony between speech and behavior, that's what earns long-term loyalty. That's what makes a man think this woman is different. Not because she's perfect, but because she's emotionally mature. And maturity in communication is rare, especially in a world driven by ego, power plays, and emotional outbursts. A stoic woman communicates from principle. She's aware of her triggers, and she doesn't project them onto others. She observes. She takes responsibility for her feelings. She makes requests instead of demands. She chooses clarity over passive aggression. And because of that, a man trusts her. He trusts that she'll tell him the truth. Not the version that avoids conflict, but the version that leads to real connection. That's leadership, feminine leadership, and it's magnetic. A woman who knows what she wants and isn't afraid to speak it commands attention without trying. She's not afraid to say, "This doesn't feel good to me," or "I need more consistency," or even "This dynamic doesn't work for me anymore." Not to manipulate, but to lead. And in doing so, she gives a man the chance to rise. She creates the space for honesty, depth, and repair. And let's be honest, a man might love how you look, but he respects how you speak. He might be attracted to your energy, but he stays for your clarity. That's how emotional intimacy is built. That's how trust is deepened. That's how love becomes something more than words. It becomes a lived experience, and you don't need to be a perfect speaker to do this. You just need to be an honest one. One who's not afraid of being misunderstood in the short term, if it means honoring yourself long term. Because every time you speak your truth, you reclaim your power. And in that power, you send a message without raising your voice. I am a woman of value. That message echoes through every relationship you enter. It changes how men perceive you. It shifts how they approach you, because now they know you're not looking for approval. You're leading with truth. That truth filters out the wrong men and invites in the right ones. Because a man who is ready to build will never run from a woman who speaks with clarity. He'll be drawn to her. He'll find peace in her voice. And most of all, he'll trust her leadership because she's not trying to win an argument. She's trying to build a life. And that's the woman he'll respect, love, and protect. So if you've ever been told you're too direct or too much, let this be your reminder. You are not too much for the right man. You are only too much for the one who doesn't want to grow. Keep speaking with clarity. Keep honoring your truth. Keep using your voice with intention, because a woman who communicates with emotional maturity is not only rare, she is irreplaceable. And when a man sees you that way, he doesn't just stay.
He commits.
He plans. He builds, because you're no longer just a beautiful moment. You've become his foundation. If this resonated with you, make sure to like this video. Drop a number 1 in the comments if it spoke to your heart, and subscribe to this channel for more empowering insight to elevate your life and relationships. This is Love Stoic, and here we speak with clarity. We grow with purpose, and we love without losing ourselves. When it comes down to it, being the woman a man sees as his future wife isn't about strategy. It's about substance. It's not about making yourself more appealing to him. It's about becoming more aligned with you. That alignment between your values, your actions, your words, and your energy is what shifts everything. Because when you are clear, calm, whole, and purposeful, you don't beg for love. You don't perform for connection. And you don't tolerate misalignment just to avoid being alone. You walk in your worth. You carry yourself like someone who knows she is already complete. And from that place, love becomes a reflection of your power, not a replacement for your peace. Men of quality, men with vision, direction, depth, aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for a woman who has done the inner work. A woman who isn't afraid to be alone because she knows her solitude is sacred. A woman who communicates like a queen, sets boundaries like a leader, and loves like a woman who has nothing to prove. That kind of woman doesn't fear losing a man. She fears losing herself. So she stays rooted in her values, even when it's hard. She walks away when she must. She chooses growth over comfort. And that energy, it doesn't just attract love, it attracts legacy. You've just learned the 6 core traits that instantly make a man see you not as a moment, but as a forever. Now the question is, will you just understand them, or will you live them? Because information is everywhere, but transformation is everywhere. But transformation only happens when you act, when you shift how you see yourself. When you raise your standard, not for others but for yourself. And when that shift happens, you won't need to ask if he sees you as his future. He'll show you in how he moves, in how he commits, in how he protects and pursues you. Not out of obligation, but out of honor. This is the heart of Love Stoic. We don't chase, we don't settle, we don't perform, we become. And in that becoming, we attract what was always meant for us. A man who is strong enough to love a woman who respects herself. A man who is clear enough to recognize her value. And a man who is wise enough to never let her go. Stay grounded, stay clear, stay powerful. Because the woman you're becoming is not just someone he wants. It's someone the world needs. And she starts right here with you.
Let's get brutally honest for a moment. Have you ever walked away from a conversation with a man, your partner, a guy you're dating, maybe even a friend, and felt like something shifted, like something small you said took the mystery out of you, drained the energy, killed the spark? Here's the truth. No one tells you the wrong words at the wrong time can unravel the attraction you worked so hard to build. And most of the time, you don't even know what those words are until it's too late. But here's the good news. You're not crazy, and you're definitely not alone. Most women are told that honesty, openness, and vulnerability are always attractive, that the more you share, the more intimacy you create. But what if I told you that belief is half true at best and completely destructive at worst? Here's the problem. Modern advice teaches women to be transparent, but what it doesn't teach is discernment. There's a powerful difference between being emotionally available and emotionally exposed, between being known and being predictable, between being open and being vulnerable in the wrong way. And that difference, it's often the fine line between deep attraction and slow detachment. That's why this conversation is so important, because once you understand what to never reveal to a man, you stop sabotaging your own power and you start showing up with presence, confidence, and magnetism that most women never access. This is not about manipulation. This is about stoicism, a disciplined inner world. And if you're a woman who values emotional depth, meaningful connection, and keeping your standards high without lowering your heart, then what you're about to discover can completely transform how men respond to you. We're going to unpack the 6 things women must keep private, never tell a man, and more importantly, why some truths don't build closeness, they build resistance. Why withholding isn't withholding, it's self-mastery. And by the Tao. And you won't just understand what not to say. You'll feel more grounded in your feminine power. You'll recognize how to carry mystery, communicate strength, and keep a man emotionally invested without over-explaining yourself. You'll be walking a path very few women walk. But the ones who do, they don't chase men. They attract leaders, warriors, builders, men who rise because they see a woman who respects herself enough not to give everything away too soon. So stay with me, because the final point, number 6, may just unlock the missing piece you didn't even know you needed. And once you get it, there's no going back. You're about to step into the mindset of Love Stoic. And this might just change the way you love forever. 1, your insecurities about other women. Here's the brutal truth. The moment you speak your insecurity aloud to a man, you not only reveal a personal vulnerability, you hand over your emotional power. When you say things like, "She's so much prettier than me," or "You'd probably prefer someone like her," it doesn't just sound insecure. It plants a seed in his mind. A seed that whispers comparison. A seed that says even you don't see yourself as valuable, so why should he? And here's where stoicism becomes your edge, because a stoic woman doesn't deny emotion, but she doesn't let it speak for her either. She pauses, she assesses, she knows the weight her words carry. In a culture that shouts authenticity at every turn, we've blurred the line between being honest and being emotionally reckless.
And this is emotional recklessness in disguise. You think you're being vulnerable, real, and raw, but what you're actually doing is dismantling the perception of confidence he's attracted to. You're replacing mystery with neediness, and that is the fastest way to dilute desire. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met a woman who walked into a room and didn't have to say a word for people to notice her? That woman radiates not just beauty, but belief in herself. And belief is louder than beauty. It's louder than words. It's louder than the prettiest woman in the room. Because when a woman believes in herself, she becomes untouchable, irresistible. And yet, too many women are taught to verbalize every self-doubt they feel as a form of emotional bonding. What if I told you the opposite is true, that the more you speak your insecurities out loud, the more you make them real, not just for you, but for him? Because here's what happens. Men don't hear insecurity as a temporary feeling. They hear it as a signal. A signal that says, this woman needs constant reassurance. A signal that says, this woman doubts herself more than she trusts me. And worst of all, a signal that says, she will question me the same way she questions herself. And men, especially masculine men, don't fall for doubt. They fall for death. They fall for the woman who holds space for her emotions, but doesn't hand them over like fragile glass, begging to be held gently. Love Stoic teaches that emotional maturity isn't about ignoring what we feel. It's about knowing what is worthy of expression and what is better held, processed, transformed internally. Because when you tell a man how intimidated you feel by other women, you're not creating connection. You're creating comparison. You're giving him a lens you don't want him to look through. You're creating a competition in his mind that he never asked for. And now every time that other woman walks by, he's thinking about her. Because you put her there. You did the work for her. You gave her space in his perception, his curiosity, his thoughts. And now you're working double time to prove you're better worthy enough when he wasn't even questioning that before. This is the trap. And Stoicism is the escape. Ask yourself, who do you become when you choose silence over self-doubt? Who do you become when you hold your worth in your posture, not in your pleas? Who do you become when you stop introducing your shadows as facts and start seeing them as fleeting, manageable weather passing through your internal sky? That woman, the one who knows her own value, who protects her own narrative, who doesn't hand a man the emotional sword to cut her down with, is unforgettable. She's not trying to compete. She doesn't even step into the arena. She simply radiates an inner stillness that men find grounding, even addictive. And you might think, but if I don't say how I feel, I'm hiding something. No, you're mastering something. You're choosing peace over performance. You're choosing presence over panic, because not every emotion deserves to be externalized. Not every wave needs to crash. Some feelings need to be understood privately before they're ever shared publicly. Love Stoic is not about playing cold. It's about playing wise. It's about emotional discipline. It's about protecting the parts of you that are still healing and not putting them on display like open wounds you expect someone else to bandage. No man, no matter how good, can heal the insecurity you've chosen to feed. Only you can. And the more you reinforce it with your words, the more it grows. Want to build something unshakable with a man? Don't lead with fear. Lead with self-rust. Because when a man sees a woman standing in self-rust, he feels safe. Not because she's perfect, but because she's stable. She doesn't need to drag every shadow into the light just to feel seen. She doesn't make him responsible for fixing emotions she hasn't even fully understood herself. She doesn't compete with other women because she knows there is no comparison. There's only alignment or misalignment. And if he's aligned with you, no other woman stands a chance. And if he's not, no amount of proving will keep him. So stop proving. Start practicing presence. Start living from the core of who you are, not from the mirror of who you fear you're not. Stoicism says, control what you can. Let go of what you can't. And trust the process of refinement through restraint. So if you've ever caught yourself saying, I'm not as pretty, I wish I looked like her, or you probably find her more attractive, I want you to pause. Ask yourself, does this build me or break me? Does this elevate the connection or erode it? And if the answer feels like a withdrawal from your own value, choose silence. Choose sovereignty. Choose the version of you who no longer needs to compare because she's already chosen herself. And when you live that truth, you won't have to tell a man how beautiful you are. He'll feel it in your presence, and more importantly, so will you. 2, your detailed relationship history. Let's speak from a place of truth. Most women are never told. Just because a man asks doesn't mean you have to answer. In fact, one of the most seductive things you can ever master is knowing when to withhold. Not out of secrecy, but out of self-respect. And nothing requires that skill more than this, what you reveal about your past relationships. The modern world has made overexposure feel like intimacy. You meet a man, things are flowing, and before you know it, you're recounting who hurt you, how long it lasted, the mistakes you made, the chaos, the patterns, the highs and devastating lows. You think you're bonding, you think you're being real, but pause, ask yourself this: what is he really learning about you? Because when you overshare your relationship history, especially early on, what a man hears isn't just your past. He hears where your energy still lives. He hears where you haven't fully healed. He hears where another man still has emotional power over you. Stoicism teaches restraint in the face of emotional temptation. Just because the moment is warm, just because he seems safe, just because you're finally seen, doesn't mean everything needs to be laid bare. Why? Because real trust isn't built in a moment, it's built over time. And what you say too soon can be weaponized later. Not always intentionally, but inevitably. Even good men have egos, and egos listen to information like weapons. Collecting, comparing, attaching. When you tell a man, my ex was incredible in bed, or he broke me, or I've never been able to trust since, you are often unknowingly stacking him up against ghosts. You're inviting him to be your healer, your therapist, your rescuer, none of which he signed up to be. And that energy, it doesn't seduce, it burdens. Masculine energy thrives on challenge, on pursuit, on feeling like the woman in front of him is new, unclaimed, untamed, not haunted by stories of men past. Love Stoic isn't about erasing your history. It's about holding it with dignity, not distributing it like baggage. Ask yourself this: what does your past deserve? Pity. Pity will keep you small. Glory. Glory will inflate ego and bring comparison. Reverence now, that builds power, because when you carry your story like a sacred scroll rather than a tragic diary, you rise in his eyes. You become a woman who has depth, not drama, mystery, not memory dumps, power, not pain, performances. A Stoic woman knows her past, but she does not relive it in every conversation. She filters with wisdom, she shares with strategy, and she never reveals to a man something that will corrupt his perception of her in the present moment. Well, you might be thinking, but shouldn't he know everything if we're serious? Eventually, yes, but not all at once. Not in the first phase, where attraction is being calibrated, where your presence is being felt before your past is being analyzed. There is a time and a place for honest storytelling, but it comes after emotional safety is built, not before. Think about this. When a man starts comparing himself to your exes, whether he admits it or not, he starts changing his behavior. Maybe he pulls back to protect his ego. Maybe he overcompensates to prove himself. Maybe he starts seeing you as emotionally complicated. None of those outcomes benefit attraction, and all of them are avoidable. You might say, but I want to be transparent. And that's fair. But transparency without timing is recklessness. Emotional stoicism is the art of timing. It's not about suppression. It's about knowing when your words are bricks for building and when they're grenades dressed as truth. And here's something else to consider. When you talk excessively about your past, you subconsciously keep yourself in it. Every retelling keeps the energy alive. Every memory resurfaces emotion. Every detail gives power to people who no longer deserve it. And what man wants to compete with a memory? What man wants to kiss you when he feels like he's walking through the shadows of other lips? What man can lead a relationship when he's constantly watching his step around the landmines of your unresolved past? If you truly want to connect, Let him meet you. Not the ghosts you carry. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not the trauma you survived. You are the woman who chose to rise from all of it. So show him her. Show him the woman who doesn't need to explain everything to be seen, who doesn't need to bleed history to feel worthy of love, who doesn't need to outline the sins of other men to prove her strength. That woman, the one who has mastered her past without needing to relive it, is magnetic because a man senses her peace. And peace is rare, peace is precious. Peace is powerful. A stoic woman doesn't fear her story. She simply refuses to use it as bait. She waits for the right time, the right man, the right foundation. And when it's right, she tells it, not from pain, but from perspective. Not from confusion, but from clarity. Not to be rescued, but to be understood. That's the difference, and that difference is everything. So if you've ever been tempted to spill your romantic history to a man in hopes of building a connection, pause, reflect, ask yourself, what do I really want him to know? That I've been through a lot, that I've learned, that I deserve care. You can communicate all of that without giving him a full dossier on your emotional resume. Because the woman who doesn't explain everything, she remains in control. She allows him to discover her layer by layer. And that discovery, that's where connection is born. So the next time you're about to share your past in detail, ask, does this invite closeness or create emotional comparison? Does this elevate trust or place a burden on the space we're trying to build? And if the answer is unclear, say less. Let your presence speak for itself. Let your energy be louder than your explanations. And let your story remain yours until he's earned the right to hear it. And if you're feeling this message right now, if something in you knows that this is the kind of woman you're ready to become, like this video and comment number 1 if it's hitting home for you. And if you want to walk this journey of feminine mastery and emotional wisdom with me, subscribe to the channel right now. There's so much more to come, and you don't want to miss what's next. This is Love Stoic, this is Power with Poise, and this is just the beginning. 3, how you manipulate or test men. There's a dangerous myth floating through modern conversations about love that playing games, testing men, and keeping him on his toes is the key to staying in control. That being strategic means being emotionally detached, and that men somehow respect you more if you make them chase through chaos. But here's what very few women realize. When you confess to a man that you've manipulated others, tested their reactions, or purposely stirred jealousy to get attention, you aren't gaining power. You're revealing instability. You're handing him proof that trust is not your default, and more importantly, that control is your priority, not connection. Stoicism teaches us to master ourselves before attempting to influence others. And a woman who must rely on manipulation reveals something deeper than cleverness. She reveals fear. Fear of being vulnerable, fear of being unseen, fear of being abandoned. And when you tell a man how you've played games in the past, he doesn't see a clever strategist. He sees someone who's still carrying unresolved control wounds. A stoic woman doesn't need to test a man because she's already tested herself. She knows her triggers. She knows her value. She knows that manipulation only leads to power over others, not power within herself. And power over others is always temporary. It backfires. It breeds resentment. And even when it works, it creates compliance, not devotion. Let me ask you this. Why do you feel the need to test a man's loyalty through jealousy? Why do you need to orchestrate scenarios that prove how much he cares? What if that energy used to set traps was used to set boundaries instead? Because a woman with boundaries doesn't test. She doesn't threaten to leave just to see if he'll change. She doesn't hide her feelings behind silence just to create anxiety. She communicates directly, clearly, and with conviction. And that level of clarity that is deeply attractive to the right man. Now imagine the opposite. You're in a moment of emotional intimacy, and you casually mention to a man, yeah, I used to post thirst traps just to make my ex jealous. Or I used to ignore texts to keep control. What you think makes you sound savvy actually erodes trust in his mind. It creates paranoia. It puts him on edge. It forces him to question whether your affection is real or part of a long game he doesn't understand. And that confusion, that doubt, that is where intimacy dies. Because intimacy without safety becomes anxiety. And no man can feel fully connected to a woman he subconsciously fears will manipulate his love. Let's go deeper. Why do women feel the need to confess these strategies in the first place? Sometimes it's guilt disguised as honesty. Sometimes it's a cry for reassurance. Tell me you would never fall for that, right? Other times it's an attempt to show off experience or strength. I've seen it all. I'm the one who calls the shots. But none of those things create the emotional bond you want. What they do instead is signal a lack of inner regulation, a lack of emotional discipline, a lack of trust in your own ability to inspire loyalty without tactics of. Stoic women don't chase validation. They don't orchestrate chaos to feel desired. They create stability in themselves first because they know that their calm is more powerful than any storm they could conjure. And men feel that. They don't know how to explain it, but they feel drawn to the woman who doesn't need to play chess to feel worthy, the woman who doesn't provoke drama to feel alive, the woman who is so secure in her standards that she doesn't need to test, threaten, or trap. Here's what you must understand. Every time you reveal a manipulative past, even injustice, you plant a seed of uncertainty. You make him wonder, is she doing that to me now? Was that silence earlier today a real emotion or another test? And now he's no longer present with you. He's analyzing, calculating, guarding. That is the opposite of intimacy. That is the beginning of distance. So if you've ever said things like, I flirted with another guy just to make him jealous, or I pretended I didn't care so he would chase, understand that those moments were not power plays. They were cries for control. In a moment when you felt powerless, and that's okay, we've all been there, but power doesn't come from control, it comes from courage. And it takes courage to be direct, to ask for what you want without manipulation, to express your feelings without threatening outcomes, to stand firm in your standards without using confusion as a tool. A woman who embraces stoicism doesn't play games because she values her time too much. She values her emotional clarity. She values her ability to respond instead of react. And men who are truly masculine, grounded, conscious, and high value are not intrigued by manipulation. They are repelled by it. They see it as weakness disguised as cleverness, and they walk away from it because it signals long-term instability. Ask yourself honestly, when you've manipulated a man, did you feel more powerful afterward? Or did you feel emptier, more anxious, more detached from your own truth? Did it deepen love or deepen the illusion of control? And if you're still carrying the belief that you need to test men to know their loyalty, then it's not loyalty you're seeking. It's proof that you're safe. And safety never comes from external tests. It comes from internal alignment. A love stoic woman knows this. When you are aligned, you don't need confirmation from chaos. You trust that what's real will stay and what's unstable will fall away. No games, no traps, no need to provoke pain to prove love. So if you've ever proudly told a man, I used to play them all, or I always knew how to get them chasing, understand that you are not impressing him. You are signaling to the part of him that wants peace that you are not yet ready for that peace yourself. And the more aware he is, the faster he will walk. But when you begin to master your emotions, when you commit to honesty over games, when you choose transparency without fear, you become the kind of woman who doesn't need to test because she knows she is the test. You become the kind of woman whose energy speaks for itself, whose presence commands respect, and whose heart no longer seeks control, only truth. That is real power. That is stoic femininity, and that is what keeps the right man close. Not because you've manipulated him into staying, but because you've shown him something rare, something magnetic, something real, something he doesn't want to risk losing. Not out of fear, but out of deep reverence. So if the part of you that used to test and manipulate was just trying to survive love, let it go now. You've outgrown that. You're no longer here to survive love. You're here to master it. 4, your financial struggles or deep money fears. There's something quietly destructive about the way women are encouraged to equate emotional honesty with unfiltered exposure, especially when it comes to money. We live in an age where the narrative says if he really loves you, he should accept everything, including your brokenness, your fears, your chaos, and your uncertainty. And while there is truth to being accepted in your rawest form, there's also wisdom in being strategic with what you reveal and when. And one of the most dangerous things a woman can reveal too early or too casually is the depth of her financial fears. Stoicism teaches emotional regulation, not emotional avoidance. It tells us to understand what we're feeling, to trace it to its root, and to manage it with discipline, not dump it onto someone else hoping they'll carry it. And yet so many women make the mistake of oversharing their money wounds, how behind they are on bills, how much debt they've buried themselves in, how afraid they are of their future, how they feel like they'll never be financially safe unless someone steps in. And while it may sound vulnerable or brave, the truth is, it often creates emotional imbalance in romantic dynamics, especially early on. Because when a man, especially a masculine man, hears those fears, he doesn't just hear you, he hears a call to duty. He hears, am I supposed to fix this? He hears pressure, he feels the weight. And even if he wants to be generous, he will pull back emotionally if he senses that being with you means becoming your safety net instead of your partner. You might not say it outright, but when your energy says, please fix my financial life, you unconsciously diminish your value in his eyes, not because you're struggling, but because you're centering that struggle in your identity. That's the real issue. It's not that you have financial fears. Everyone does at some point. It's that when you choose to make those fears a focal point in your relationship communication, you change the dynamic from polarity to pity, from desire to duty, from romantic to responsible. A love stoic woman holds her struggle with quiet strength. She doesn't deny it, but she doesn't expose it like a bleeding wound either. She works on it, she plans, she adapts, she moves in silence until she's ready to speak, from a place of clarity and self-respect, not desperation. Because money isn't just money, it's about security, trust, and stability. And when you share your instability too soon, before emotional trust is truly earned, you allow your fears to distort how he sees you. You become less of a mystery and more of a responsibility. And no matter how much chemistry existed before, responsibility without intimacy quickly becomes emotional exhaustion. Think about it. How do you feel when someone shares all their unsolved problems with you on the first few dates? Do you feel closer or do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel inspired to connect or emotionally ambushed by someone else's heaviness? That's exactly what happens to men when you tell them, I'm so broke, I'm drowning in debt, or I have no idea how I'll survive financially. It's not that your fears are invalid. It's that timing and intention matter. Stoicism isn't about being fake or hiding. It's about discernment. It's about asking yourself, is this the right time? Is this the right person? Is this the right energy for what I want to build with this man? Because money is more than just math. It's energy. It carries shame. It carries pride. It carries our history with survival, with value, with self-worth. And when you expose it recklessly, you let those stories take over the narrative of your relationship. You risk letting your identity shrink into the role of the one who needs saving. And men don't fall for women they feel responsible for. They commit to women they admire, women they trust, women who carry their weight with quiet grace until it's the right moment to invite him in. Here's what most women don't know. A high-value man doesn't need you to be rich, but he does need to feel that you are resourceful. He needs to sense that even if you're in a storm, you're the kind of woman who will build shelter, not scream at the sky. He needs to trust that you're not looking for a financial father, but a teammate, a partner, a woman who's working on her life with intention and momentum. And when you show that through your actions, you won't need to prove anything with words. Your presence will speak for itself. Your energy will tell the truth. He will see you as strong. Not because you're pretending everything is perfect, but because you're handling imperfection with purpose, love. Stoic women don't expose all their wounds to gain connection. They choose the right moment to be seen. And they do so without shame, without apology, and without the expectation that anyone else is responsible for fixing them. So if you've ever been tempted to say to a man, I don't know what I'm going to do financially, pause, ask yourself, what is the purpose of this share? Is it to connect or to be saved? Is it to bond or to bleed? And if you're still in survival mode, choose stillness, choose strategy, choose the version of you who doesn't lead with fear but with foresight. That woman doesn't have to hide her reality. She just knows how to hold it until it becomes a testimony, not a trigger. And when you speak from that place, when you let him see your journey, not your panic, he will listen. He will respect you. He will want to support you, not out of obligation, but because he sees a queen building her kingdom and he wants to be a part of that power. So if this message is sinking in and you know deep down that you're ready to step into that version of yourself, then don't wait. Like this video right now and comment number 1 if it's speaking to your heart. And if you want more content that shows you how to embody your strength, your grace, and your feminine stoic power, subscribe to this channel. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a movement. This is Love Stoic. This is self-respect in action. And this is what makes a woman unforgettable. 5, every thought or emotion you feel in real time. There is a silent belief embedded deep within modern dating culture that says this: if I feel something, I must say it. As if every emotion, every mental shift, every fear, every flicker of insecurity must be narrated out loud in order for it to be valid. As if constantly speaking your truth in real time is somehow noble, pure, authentic. But here's what Stoicism teaches us. It is not only unwise to speak every feeling as it arises, it is dangerous because your words don't just describe your emotions, they define how others perceive your emotional maturity. There is immense strength in knowing what you feel without making it everyone else's responsibility to process. A Stoic woman understands that not every emotion is a message that needs to be sent. Some are simply weather systems, passing, shifting, clearing on their own. And yet so many women fall into the trap of emotional dumping, not out of malice, but out of habit. She wakes up anxious and says it. She senses a shift in energy and expresses it. She overthinks a text and brings it up immediately. She narrates every mood, every wave, every passing discomfort without pause. And what begins as honesty becomes volatility. Emotional transparency is only attractive when it is grounded in self-regulation. Otherwise, it is chaos dressed up as intimacy. And men, especially masculine men, are not magnetized to chaos. They are grounded by stability. They are inspired by mystery. They are drawn to the woman who feels deeply but filters wisely, not because she's hiding, but because she knows the cost of emotional exposure done without timing. Ask yourself honestly, when you constantly express your worries, fears, or unprocessed emotions to a man, what are you really seeking? Is it connection or reassurance? Is it closeness or control over the unknown? So many women confuse sharing with bonding. But Stoicism reveals a deeper truth. Emotions are messengers, not dictators. They can inform you, but they should never rule your behavior. And when you give every single feeling a microphone, you crowd out the space where actual connection happens. Imagine sitting with a man you deeply care about, and instead of enjoying the moment, you're narrating every flicker of discomfort. I don't know if you really like me, I'm probably being annoying. You're being distant. Did I do something? These words don't build safety. They inject doubt. They interrupt presence. They place the emotional labor of your internal world onto someone who may not have the tools or the responsibility to carry it. Love Stoic women don't avoid feelings. They master them. They learn the art of silence, not as a weapon, but as a sanctuary. They allow feelings to pass through their system like waves, breathing through them, observing them, understanding what needs to be said and what simply needs to be felt. Because when you process before you speak, you come from power. But when you speak to process, you come from panic. And panic is not feminine. Magnetism, it's resistance in disguise. Masculine energy does not rise in response to panic. It rises in response to peace, to presence, to stillness that says, I know who I am, and I am capable of feeling this without unraveling. Think of the most radiant women you've ever encountered. Were they reactive or were they composed? Did they speak every insecurity or did they command the room with their calm? Emotional discipline is not the absence of expression. It is the elevation of it. It is choosing when and how to speak so that your words don't just land, they lead. They create harmony instead of confusion, depth instead of drama. And here's what many women don't realize. When you constantly reveal your every inner thought, you remove the space for mystery. And mystery is not manipulation. It is allure. It is the magnetism of not being fully deciphered. It is the power of emotional poise of a woman who has learned to hold space for her own experience without making it a performance. That woman is not cold, she is clear, she is not detached, she is discerning, she is not suppressing, she is selecting. And men respond to her differently because they feel something rare, emotional safety. Not the kind that says, tell me everything, but the kind that says, I know how to hold myself. So if you're in the habit of narrating every emotional shift, stop and ask, is this helping us grow or is it creating confusion? Is this a moment to share or a moment to, is this about us or is this about my need to be soothed? Immediately. A woman who practices stoicism learns that her mind will always speak, but she decides which thoughts are worth giving voice to. She knows that not every concern is worthy of conversation, that not every mood needs a label, that not every emotional breeze requires a storm. And when she carries that awareness, she becomes unshakable, not hard, but centered. She becomes the kind of woman who makes a man feel more like himself. Not because she's perfect, but because she doesn't need to be emotionally handheld through every interaction. She doesn't demand constant explanation or reassurance. She doesn't seek validation in every pause or silence. She trusts the space between words. She trusts herself to navigate uncertainty. She trusts that not everything needs to be fixed in the moment. That is the power of emotional restraint. And it's not easy. It requires self-awareness, practice, patience, but the reward is profound because when you master your emotions, you no longer fear them. And when you no longer fear them, you no longer project them. You carry them with elegance, with grace, with stoic wisdom that makes you rare in a world of emotional noise. So if you've been the woman who shares everything as she feels it, know this. Your emotions are valid, but your timing is sacred. Choose it wisely, because a man who truly values you will feel your depth not through the volume of your words, but through the strength of your silence. 6. That you don't need a man. Few statements carry as much unintentional emotional impact as this one. I don't need a man. It's tossed around like armor, worn like a badge of honor, recited like a script women have been told they must perform in order to appear strong, independent, and above all, untouchable. But let's pause for a moment and ask, what does it really signal when you say that out loud to a man? What truth are you actually communicating? Because Stoicism doesn't just ask us to consider what we feel, it asks us to examine how our words shape the world around us. And when you say, I don't need a man to a man who might love you, admire you, want to build something real with you, you are not expressing empowerment. You are expressing emotional closure. You are not inspiring respect. You are signaling rejection of the very polarity that creates intimacy. It's time to be honest with ourselves. Needing someone and being dependent on someone are not the same. The Stoic woman knows this. She knows that interdependence is not weakness. It's strength refined through trust. It's choosing to let someone in not because you're incomplete, but because you are whole enough to share your life with someone who adds to it. But when you frame your strength as detachment, when you use, I don't need anyone as a wall instead of a window, you don't create mystery, you create emotional isolation. And men feel it. They don't always know how to name it, but they feel the disconnect. They feel the energy of you're not important here. They sense they're not allowed to serve, contribute, or lead. And masculine energy needs to serve. It needs purpose, direction, challenge, and most of all, it needs to feel needed. Not needed in a desperate save me way, needed in the way that says there is room in my life for your strength. That is what creates devotion. That is what makes a man rise. But if you say, I don't need a man, even if you believe it's empowering, what he hears is, there is no place for you in my world. And whether he's conscious of it or not, he will emotionally back away. He may stay physically, he may stay casually, but his soul will not invest. Because no man wants to pour into a woman who loudly announces she doesn't require the masculine at all. Love Stoic is not about weakness. It's about wisdom. And wise women know that the highest form of strength is the ability to open, not to harden. To allow, not to defend. To create space for the masculine, not to declare war on it. So when you say, I don't need a man, ask yourself, what am I really saying? Am I defending myself from disappointment? Am I avoiding vulnerability? Am I trying to prove something that I'm still not certain of inside? A woman who has truly stepped into her power doesn't need to reject a man to feel powerful. She doesn't need to broadcast her independence to prove it. She simply lives from a place of self-trust that makes it obvious. She can stand alone. And that's exactly why a strong man wants to stand beside her. Because strength that doesn't leave room for connection becomes cold. It becomes lonely. It becomes the exact thing so many women are trying to escape but don't realize they're reinforcing. The truth is the most magnetic women are not the ones who make men feel unnecessary. They're the ones who inspire men to be better, to show up, to protect, to provide, not just with money, but with presence, effort, energy, leadership. And when you tell a man there's no space for that in your life, you block the very current of polarity that relationships need to thrive. You may think you're saying, I've got me, but what he hears is there's no place for you, and he won't fight that energy. He'll just fade. The Stoic feminine doesn't push away the masculine. It welcomes it with standards. She doesn't say, I don't need you. She says, if you are to be here, you must rise. You must meet me in depth. You must lead with heart. You must bring your highest self to the table, because I will never settle for less. That is not neediness. That is divinity. That is partnership. That is the invitation a real man cannot resist. So let this be your reminder. You are not more powerful when you declare you don't need love. You are powerful when you know that you can survive without it, but still choose to open anyway. That is emotional mastery. That is stoicism at its most evolved form. That is what makes a man respect you, not just for your strength, but for your softness, your depth, your grace under fire. So if you've ever caught yourself saying, I don't need a man, reflect on where that statement comes from. Is it empowerment or pain? Is it truth or a defense mechanism shaped by disappointment? And if it's the latter, it's time to rewrite that story, because real empowerment is not proving you don't need anyone. It's standing fully in your worth, knowing that the right man will not complete you, but will complement you. He will not rescue you, but he will rise beside you. He will not define your value, but he will recognize it, honor it, and protect it. And you will no longer need to push love away to feel powerful. You'll know that love is not the enemy of strength. Love is the reward for it. So if this message is speaking directly to your soul, if you're ready to step into that deeper, more refined, more grounded version of feminine power, like this video and comment number 1 below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more guidance on how to walk the path of stoic love, high-value connection, and emotional self-mastery. This is the mindset of Love Stoic. And if you carry it well, you won't have to chase a man's respect, you'll command it. just by being. So much of what we've been taught about love, communication, and openness tells us that the more we share, the deeper our connections become. But real wisdom, true feminine power, knows better. It understands that not everything sacred needs to be spoken, that some parts of your story are not meant to be put on display but held in quiet reverence, that a woman's strength is not found in how loudly she explains herself, but in how intentionally she chooses what to reveal. These 6 truths are not rules to suppress your authenticity. They are principles to protect your emotional leverage, your self-respect, and your capacity to build lasting attraction with a man who can meet you where you are without you shrinking to make him comfortable or oversharing to feel seen. Love Stoic is not about being closed off, it's about being discerning. It's about knowing that mystery, when rooted in truth, is not manipulation, it's magnetism. It's about stepping into the type of quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove anything, but instead allows others to experience your presence and decide to rise with you or fall away. And if they fall away, let them. Not everyone is meant to witness your full depth. Some are only meant to meet your surface. And that too is a lesson in sovereignty. Stoicism is not the absence of emotion. It is emotional leadership, and when you embody that in your relationships, you stop performing, you stop chasing, and you begin attracting the kind of love that does not ask you to abandon yourself to receive it. The kind of love that values your restraint as much as your expression. The kind of love that sees your silence not as emptiness, but as elegance. That is the woman you are becoming. And that is the kind of woman who leaves a lasting impact. Not because she told everything, but because she knew what not to say. Let's get honest for a second. Have you ever stood in front of your closet, surrounded by clothes, and still felt like nothing really speaks? You don't want to overdress. You don't want to underdress. You don't want to try too hard. But deep down, you do want to be seen. Not just glanced at, felt, remembered, desired. Here's the question. Most women silently ask themselves, what actually makes a man stop in his tracks? Is it a tight dress, glittery heels showing more skin? That's where the first trap lives. The belief that attraction is about visibility. But here's the truth. It's not about being seen more. It's about being seen differently. So many women think they need to shout with style to be noticed. But what if the real power lies in subtlety? What if the most unforgettable kind of attraction is not loud at all, but quietly magnetic? In a world that teaches us to chase attention, to constantly do more, reveal more, post more, what if the opposite is true? What if the key is to stop chasing and start embodying? That's where everything changes. This isn't about fashion hacks. It's about tapping into something timeless, rooted deep in psychology, presence, and yes, even biology. Because men, whether they know it or not, are wired to respond to certain signals. But these signals aren't cheap tricks. They're ancient codes that awaken curiosity, desire, and respect all at once. And when you know how to wear them, not just on your body, but through your energy, you stop being a woman who's looked at and become a woman who's felt, who's known, who lingers in this video. We're diving into 6 things you wear that secretly drive men wild, not with desperation, not with loudness, but with stoic certainty. You're about to learn how to speak without talking seduce, without chasing and shift, how men experience you forever. This is for women who are done waiting, done pretending, and ready to reclaim their natural power with calm confidence and quiet fire. So ask yourself this, are you dressing to decorate yourself or to express your essence? Are you picking outfits based on how others might judge you or how deeply you want to feel your own power? Because once you understand what each of these 6 elements really does to him and to you, you won't look at your wardrobe the same way again. By the end of this video, you'll understand attraction through a new lens, one based on presence, not pressure, inner peace, not performance, love stoic, not love frantic, the kind of woman who walks into a room and doesn't beg for attention because she knows she already owns it. Get ready, part 1 is where we begin. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens by part 6. Let's unlock your silent power, one the right scent. There's a kind of power that moves through the air long before a word is spoken. A silent presence that lingers in a room, in a mind, and in a memory. And that power is scent. Have you ever walked past someone and suddenly remembered a person you hadn't thought about in years? Have you ever caught a whiff of a certain fragrance and felt your chest tighten, not from pain, but from longing? That is not coincidence. That is the science and soul of scent. And when you as a woman choose your fragrance with intention, You're not just completing your outfit. You're speaking without sound. What does your scent say about you? Does it whisper softness or does it ignite mystery? Does it call someone closer or does it leave them haunted in the best way by your memory? A woman's scent is not just something she wears, it's something she becomes, unlike clothes or makeup. It doesn't announce itself with boldness, it announces itself with permanence. Men often cannot tell you what perfume you wore, but they will tell you how it made them feel. And that's the point. While visual attraction fades in seconds, olfactory memory imprints itself into the emotional brain. The same part of the brain where desire, connection, and nostalgia live. The scent you choose can say, I'm untouchable, or it can say, come closer. It can awaken something ancient and familiar in him, something he doesn't even understand but cannot ignore. And when used right, it creates a sense of intimacy without ever crossing a line. Stoicism teaches us that presence is not noise. It is resonance. Scent is the resonance of the feminine. It lingers after you've gone, wrapping itself around a man's thoughts like a warm echo. It's not about drowning yourself in the strongest perfume. It's about finding the note that harmonizes with your natural body chemistry, the invisible fingerprint of your femininity. Have you ever considered how your scent evolves throughout the day? How it changes depending on your mood, your skin, your energy? That evolution is part of what makes it so powerful. It's not static. It moves with you, grows with you, expresses different sides of you. A perfume can be floral, woody, musky, sweet, spicy, but above all, it should be yours. Scent in the philosophy of love. Stoic is not a weapon. It's an invitation. It doesn't grab, it draws it, doesn't beg it, seduces through stillness. And men are wired, biologically, psychologically, to follow the trail of that energy. That's why a woman who wears a carefully chosen fragrance is not just dressing up. She's crafting an experience. She becomes a landscape of emotion and memory that a man wants to revisit again and again. But there's another layer. Scent, unlike visual beauty, cannot be filtered. It cannot be edited. It cannot be faked. It is one of the most honest forms of communication. That is why it holds such power in the hands of a woman who is rooted in her own identity. You cannot wear a perfume like armor. It must be worn like skin. When you choose a scent that reflects who you are, your grace, your warmth, your edge, it becomes your silent name. One that speaks in rooms even after you've left them. And here's the most overlooked truth. The power of scent is not in how strong it smells, but in how precisely it fits you. The right perfume becomes part of your atmosphere. It becomes part of how you enter a space, how you are remembered in it, and how others feel when they think of you. In Stoicism, we learn to detach from vanity, but not from self-respect. Wearing a signature scent is not vanity. It's awareness. It's choosing to shape the energy you leave behind. A woman who understands this doesn't need to wear the same fragrance as everyone else. She finds one that belongs to her essence, and she wears it not for compliments, but for alignment. She wears it to walk through the world in harmony with herself, because that kind of alignment is magnetic, not flashy, not desperate, just quietly undeniable. When a man breathes in your scent, what do you want him to feel? What story do you want to write into his memory without ever touching him? The answers lie not in any bottle, but in how you carry your choices. A woman who walks in stoic confidence, who honors herself by selecting her scent with purpose, becomes unforgettable, not by chasing attention, but by commanding it through stillness in a noisy world. Scent is the softest sound, and yet when it's the right one, it speaks the loudest. That is the paradox, that is the beauty. And that is the kind of woman who doesn't just walk through life. She moves through it with grace, with command, and with a fragrance that tells the story of her calm power. This is not about becoming someone else. This is about becoming so deeply yourself that your very presence, your very scent, teaches the room how to feel you without ever needing to speak. And when you live in alignment with that, when you wear a scent that amplifies your truth, instead of masking it, men do not forget you. They carry you long after the moment has passed. That is love stoic. That is feminine stoicism in action. That is the silent signature of the woman who knows who she is and knows exactly what kind of energy she's putting into the world. Not to be liked, but to be known. To well-fitted clothing. There's a reason why some women walk into a room and command it without saying a single word. It's not always about height or makeup or sparkle. Often, it's the quiet elegance of how her clothes fit. There's a silent kind of confidence in a woman who knows her shape, honors it, and dresses with purpose. Not for approval, not for applause, but for alignment. Clothing that fits well isn't just fabric, it's a message. It says, I know who I am and I'm not hiding. When you wear something that hugs your frame with precision, not tight, not revealing, just right, you're telling the world that you pay attention, not just to fashion, but to yourself. And here's the truth, that most people overlook men. Notice this, they may not have the vocabulary to describe it, but they feel it a well-fitted dress. Whispers discipline, it reveals that you take care of your choices, your body, your life. In the philosophy of Stoicism, care is a form of inner strength, not fussiness, not perfectionism, but a form of living intentionally. And when you choose clothing that fits your body not a model's, not a trend's, you are living intentionally. Have you ever put something on and instantly felt stronger, clearer, more awake in your own skin? That's the power of the right fit. It doesn't just change how others see you. It changes how you stand, how you move, how you think. A well-fitted outfit aligns your external with your internal. It says, I respect the space I take up. And that energy, that calm, grounded certainty is rare. Men don't fall for chaos. They're drawn to peace. Not the passive kind, but the powerful kind. The kind that lives in a woman who walks like she means it. Clothing that fits supports that walk. It doesn't distract from you. It reveals you. It doesn't scream. It speaks. And what it says is, I'm present. When a woman is present, she becomes magnetic. There's no need to adjust, to pull, to check the mirror every 5 seconds, because when the fit is right, your mind is free. Your attention returns to your energy, your conversation, your presence. And that is what men remember. In the world of love, stoic presence is everything. A well-fitted outfit gives you the ability to show up with poise, not performance. Ask yourself, are your clothes working for you or are they working against you? Do they allow your energy to lead the room or do they pull you into distraction and insecurity? There is a reason why elegance never goes out of style. It's because elegance isn't a trend. It's a reflection of self-knowledge. A woman who dresses with precision doesn't need to show everything. She just needs to reveal that she knows what fits. And here's the beautiful paradox. The less you try to impress, the more powerful you become. Because real elegance doesn't chase validation. It invites admiration. It is slow, steady, and certain, like Stoicism itself. When you wear clothes that truly fit your body, doesn't disappear, it becomes art. Not because it conforms to someone else's standards, but because it expresses truth. Truth, after all, is always beautiful. Even more than that, it's attractive. And men, whether they understand it consciously, and sacred, happens. You glow. Not from makeup, from alignment. And here's where it gets even deeper. Fit is also a form of discipline. It shows that you care about details, that you respect your body enough, not to hide it or flaunt it, but to honor it. And that kind of respect is not only rare, it's deeply attractive. A man may say, you're beautiful, but what he's really reacting to is the quiet care you put into how you present yourself. He sees effort, he sees taste, he sees self-awareness, and all of that pulls him closer, not in lust, but in curiosity, because it makes him ask, who is this woman who walks like that? What does she know about herself that gives her this peace, and how can I get near it? That's the power of the right fit. It builds intrigue without exposure. It builds desire without desperation. It says, I'm not here to convince you of my worth. I'm here because I already know it. And that is a level of confidence no trend can teach. So the next time you open your closet, ask a different question. Not, will this impress him? Ask, does this reflect the way I love myself? Because when you choose outfits that match your inner clarity, you stop dressing to attract you. Start dressing to align. And alignment is what makes you unforgettable. This is the wisdom of Stoicism in motion. Less noise, more meaning, less excess, more essence, fewer clothes that distract, more that reveal presence. And if you take one thing from this, let it be this: fit is not about perfection, it's about honesty. When you choose honesty over hype, something incredible happens. Men don't just notice your body, they notice you, your discipline, your story, your standard, your silence that speaks louder than words. And here's the truth, you need to hear. You don't need to compete to be desired. You just need to align to be remembered. Love Stoic isn't about changing who you are. It's about revealing who you are through every choice. And your clothing is one of the loudest choices you make without speaking. So choose pieces that feel like an extension of your calm power. Choose quality over flash, precision over pressure, intention over attention, because the woman who dresses like she values herself trains the world to value her too. If that resonates with you, if this truth reminds you of the power you already have, then do this like this video and comment number 1 below. Let me know that you're walking this path with presence, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because in the next part, we're unlocking a color that doesn't just catch the eye. It reaches the ancient instincts buried deep inside his mind, the one shade that speaks straight to desire. You won't want to miss it. 3, confidence in red. There is a moment almost imperceptible when a woman wearing red enters the room, and the atmosphere shifts, not because she demands attention, but because something ancient and undeniable in her presence begins to speak to the primal instincts of those around her. Red is more than a color. It is a declaration of presence, a signal to the subconscious mind. It is not noise. It is a quiet roar. It whispers to the male brain in a language older than words, older than fashion, older even than desire itself. Throughout time, red has symbolized everything from fertility and life to power and sacrifice. It is the color of blood and fire, of heartbeat and breath, of danger and attraction. In the philosophy of Stoicism, we learn to strip away the unnecessary, to return to what is essential, and red, in its purest form, is essential. It is not worn to impress. It is worn to embody. When a woman chooses red, not for approval, but from alignment with her inner fire, she ceases to wear a color and instead becomes a force. Ask yourself, when was the last time you wore red and didn't second guess it? Did you feel the shift in how you walked, how you were seen, how you stood? Red transforms not just appearance, but energy. It tells the world, I am here, without raising its voice. It is bold without being desperate, unapologetic without being aggressive. And men, without always understanding why, respond with attention, with curiosity, and most powerfully with respect. There is a kind of confidence that red evokes, but it must be real. You cannot wear red and hide. Red is not for the woman who wants to shrink. It is for the woman who is ready to show up, not to chase love, but to radiate it, not to beg to be seen, but to confirm that she sees herself clearly in the practice of love. Stoic red becomes a symbol, not of seduction, but of self-possession. It is not a plea. It is a presence, and presence, real presence, is rare. That rarity is what makes it so compelling. Men don't chase noise, they chase value. And red has always been a signal of high value. It stands out, not because it is loud, but because it is unforgettable. Picture a woman in a scarlet dress, not fidgeting, not adjusting, simply standing still, fully rooted in herself. That stillness in red is louder than any scream, because it takes power to be still. Red on a woman who knows herself becomes a mirror for the man who sees her. It reflects his own yearning for certainty, for clarity, for something real. And make no mistake, red only works when it is honest, when it reflects not a costume, but character. This is not about draping yourself in a bold color to hide insecurity. This is about letting the color reflect a fire that already lives inside you. A woman who wears red from that place becomes untouchable, not because she is distant, but because she is whole. Whole women don't beg, they don't perform, they simply arrive, and their arrival is felt in every direction in Stoicism. We are taught to act with virtue, to live in accordance with our nature. Red, when worn with truth, honors that principle. It is a natural expression of the bold, passionate, alive part of the feminine spirit that too many women have been taught to dim. But why should you dim something sacred? Why should you shrink your fire to fit into a room that wasn't built to hold you? Red says no to that shrinking red, reclaims space, and in doing so, it gives other women permission to do the same. This is why the woman in red is often watched not just by men, but by women too. She becomes a reminder of what's possible when we stop apologizing for our power, and isn't that what true elegance is? Not trying hard, but simply being in alignment. When you wear red with integrity, you are not dressing to be desired. You are dressing to express that you already are desirable. And not because of curves or cutouts or couture, but because you know yourself. That knowing is what men feel. That's what turns heads. Not just attraction in the shallow sense, but admiration, respect, a kind of reverence. Because red, when it matches your energy commands, without controlling it, influences without forcing. And this too is Stoicism, leading through example, not performance. Men are not blind to this. They feel the difference between a woman who wears red to seduce and a woman who wears red because she is already lit from within. One seeks to get something, the other gives off something. The first is transactional, the second is transformational. And that transformation begins with intention, not just choosing red, but choosing how you wear it. Is it a crimson lip that frames your quiet strength? A ruby blouse that flows as you move through your day? A burgundy coat that turns the gray city into a stage for your certainty? The shade matters less than the sincerity, because what matters is not how bold the red is, it's how true it is to you. Red only works when it fits your spirit. Otherwise, it's costume. But when it does fit, when your internal fire meets the external tone, Something magical happens. You become magnetic, not because you're trying, but because you're true to your edge, true to your softness, true to the beautiful paradox of feminine strength. Love Stoic reminds us that attraction is not a game. It is an echo. When you live with self-respect, you echo that into the world, and the right people hear it. The same is true with red. It becomes an echo of your conviction. It tells the world you are not here to play small. And that echo, when honest, calls the right men to step forward, not just for a moment, but with intention. And here's something often missed. Red changes you first. It shifts your psychology before it shifts anyone else's perception. Because when you look in the mirror and see that color on your skin, you remember that you're alive, that you're not background, that you're a force. And when you remember that everything changes, from how you speak to how you breathe to how you let others treat you, this is where Stoicism becomes practical. It teaches you not to be ruled by impulse, but to live with deliberate courage. Red is a visual form of that courage. It is a decision to be seen fully, not partially, and men are drawn to that fullness, not because they want to take it, but because it awakens something in them, something noble, something focused. A man sees a woman in red and feels the pulse of his own capacity. Rise not in lust, but in reverence, not in rush, but in attention. Because red slows him down. It says, look again, look deeper. And the man who is ready, the man who leads with presence, hears that message and steps forward, not to consume, but to connect. That's the power of red. When worn by a woman who walks with grace, stillness, and stoic confidence, she does not use red to shout. She lets red reflect what already burns inside her, a light that needs no approval. So when you wear red next, ask yourself not how it looks, but how it feels. Does it make you stand taller, speak slower, feel more aware of your worth? If the answer is yes, then wear it. Not for compliments, not for shock. Wear it because it reflects something sacred. Wear it because it honors your truth. Wear it because it reminds you and everyone around you that your power is not found in how hard you try, but in how completely you are. That is love Stoic. That is Stoicism in fabric form. That is you choosing presence over performance, alignment over applause, depth over decoration. And that is what men cannot forget. For the echo of heels. There's a sound that slices through distraction, that cuts across a crowded room and silences the chaos without force. The sharp, deliberate echo of heels on the floor. Heels are not just shoes, they are an instrument of rhythm, a call to presence with every step. When a woman wears heels, she does more than elevate her height. She elevates her state, her posture shifts, her walk transforms. She doesn't merely move, she glides, and that glide speaks volumes to anyone watching, especially men. But the power isn't in the heel itself. It's in what the heel demands from the woman wearing it. Balance, awareness, intention. Stoicism teaches us to be mindful in action, to act with clarity and control. And heels require exactly that. You cannot walk carelessly in heels. You must pay attention to how your body moves, how your weight shifts, how your steps align with your frame. This enforced presence becomes practice, and that practice becomes elegance. Elegance that is not forced or performed, but earned through calm. Control. A woman in heels is not merely dressing up. She's showing up. She's embodying purpose in motion. Have you ever noticed how your mindset changes the moment you slip into heels? How you suddenly feel more composed, more prepared, more commanding, even before you leave the house? That's not an illusion. That's a shift in energy. Heels give structure to your body, and in return, your body gives structure to your mood. They lengthen your line, lift your frame, and sharpen your silhouette. But more than aesthetics, they sharpen your awareness. When a man hears the distinct click-click of a confident woman approaching, he doesn't just hear sound, he hears certainty. The cadence becomes a signal someone of value is present, and whether he understands it consciously or not, he turns toward that signal because it's not loud, it's clear, it's focused, it demands nothing, yet changes everything. A woman who walks in heels with grounded grace is not trying to impress, she's honoring her own power in the world of love. Stoic. This is not about seduction as manipulation. This is about movement as meditation. Every step becomes a ritual of claiming space with integrity. That's why heels have always been symbols of femininity. Not because they're flashy, but because they require balance, both physical and emotional. Each step says, I know where I'm going. Each stride affirms, I'm not afraid to be seen getting there. And men instinctively respond to this poise. They don't just see it, they feel it, because power shown through grace is more attractive than power performed through noise. There is something magnetic about a woman who knows how to move, not to entertain, but to express mastery of self. And heels. when worn with that intention, become more than footwear. They become armor. They become instruments. They become a woman's way of announcing her presence without opening her mouth. But the key is this: heels only speak power when the woman wearing them walks with awareness. Otherwise, they become costume. Difference between discomfort and dominance lies not in the heel itself, but in the energy behind it. Are you wearing them because you think you should, or because you know who you are when you do? This is the Stoic difference, choosing not out of pressure, but out of principle. When you walk in heels that align with your essence, you're not performing your being, and that beingness is the real attraction, because it says to everyone watching, especially the man you secretly hope notices, I am composed, I am embodied, I am here. Heels do not scream. They declare with every tap on the floor. They announce a woman who is rooted, a woman who is calm, a woman who is not rushing, but leading even if she's not being followed. That's why the echo of heels can feel almost sacred. It pulls people out of their minds and into the moment. It's a kind of music, one composed by direction, confidence, and control. And let's not ignore the truth. Heels accentuate the natural grace of the feminine form. They highlight the lines of the leg, sway of the hips, the rhythm of movement. But it's not about being watched. It's about being felt. When you walk in heels that feel like an extension of your spirit, your whole presence becomes elevated. You move from mere attraction to full captivation. And here's what men will never say out loud when a woman moves with confidence. It awakens something in them, not lust, not conquest, but a deep pull to match that level of presence. It's like her steps create an invitation. Rise up, meet me here. And the man who's ready, who's grounded in his own sense of self, will feel compelled to step toward that energy. Heels don't demand his pursuit. They allow space for it. That's the beauty of feminine stoicism. It doesn't chase, but it makes room. It doesn't scream, but it commands, and heels in their purest form do just that. But they also do something subtler. They shift your own experience of yourself, the way you hold your head, the way your shoulders sit, the way your gaze becomes more intentional. All of these micro adjustments create a macro shift. You become aware, awake, alive, and that awareness is what men truly respond to, because awareness is power, not the kind that needs to dominate, but the kind that radiates security. Heels teach you that movement can be presence, that walking into a room can be as powerful as anything you say, that how you carry yourself literally influences how others carry you in their minds. Ask yourself the last time you wore heels. Did you feel like a version of yourself that could not be ignored? Did you feel a little more magnetic, a little more complete? That's not vanity. That's alignment. When your outer expression mirrors your inner strength, the world feels it, the room feels it, he feels it. And if he's a man of depth, that feeling stays long after you've left, because you didn't just enter a space, you made it your own one. Measured, intentional step at a time. This is what Love Stoic is all about. Owning your movement, honoring your power, leading with grace, and never with noise. Let your heels be your rhythm, your punctuation, your poetry. Let them remind you that you are worthy of being seen, not because you shout, but because you show up in your fullness. So if you felt the truth of this in your own life, if you know what it feels like to walk into a space and shift the temperature without saying a word, then let that truth breathe like this video. And comment number 1, if that echo of heels has ever been your silent anthem. And make sure you subscribe now, because in the next part, we're going even deeper into the delicate power of details. You'll discover how the tiniest accessories can speak louder than anything else you wear. And trust me, that part might change how you look at your own reflection forever. 5, subtle feminine accessories. Accessories may be small, but in their silence, they speak the loudest stories about a woman's essence. They are not the main event. They are the quiet punctuation, the sacred symbols woven into her presence that say more than her clothes or even her words. A ring is never just a ring. A bracelet is never just metal. A pair of earrings, delicate or bold, is more than decoration, it's declaration. In Stoicism, we're taught to be intentional with every action, to make choices based not on impulse, but on clarity. The same applies to the things we wear on our bodies that seem optional to others, but are often fundamental to us. When a woman chooses her accessories with purpose, she's not trying to impress the world. She's building her narrative. She's refining her rhythm. She's embodying her grace, one subtle detail at a time. Have you ever worn a necklace that felt like a secret? A vintage locket from your grandmother? A tiny charm that reminds you of your resilience? A piece that only you understand, but still shifts how you walk into a room that is not fashion, that is symbolism. And symbolism has always been more powerful than noise. Men don't always register every detail of what you wear, but they feel the energy those details transmit. They may not know the brand of your ring or the cut of your pendant, but something in them tunes into what it means. Accessories are quiet invitations to look closer, to pay attention. They whisper, "There's more to see here." They stir curiosity, not because they scream, but because they suggest in the world of love. Stoic, we don't use appearance to overcompensate for insecurity. We use it to align with integrity. That's why the right accessory doesn't compete for attention. It enhances the you that's already enough. The woman who wears minimal jewelry with maximum clarity doesn't need validation. Her self-respect radiates through the polish of her presence. And that polish isn't about sparkle. It's about selection. It's about wearing a single clean line of silver or gold and letting it mirror your stillness, your steadiness, your subtlety. The Stoic woman knows that silence speaks louder than clutter. She does not over-accessorize to be seen. She wears with intention to be understood. There is a difference when your accessories are rooted in personal meaning. They become part of your frequency. Like a scent, they leave an impression long after you've left. They carry memory, message, magnetism. Even a simple watch, if worn with quiet strength, becomes more than time. It becomes timing. A pearl earring becomes not a nod to trend, but a symbol of quiet legacy. A small hand-woven bracelet can say more about your soul than any dress ever could. These objects are not decoration. They are portals, and men who are attuned, those who are drawn to energy, not just image, will feel pulled in by them. They'll wonder, why did that single necklace feel like a story? They may not ask out loud, but their attention will linger, not because of exposure, but because of expression. Accessories are an extension of your emotional life, a translation of your spirit into something tactile. That's why they must be chosen with care, not because they're expensive, but because they're true. A woman who wears a few meaningful pieces with calm confidence draws attention in a way that feels effortless, sacred, and grounded. Her rings don't just shine. They reflect how she holds her values. Her necklace
doesn't just fall across her skin. It traces the outline of her memory. Her hairpin isn't just functional. It holds in place her sense of intention. This is the subtle language of feminine stoicism, and it's a language that only the awake can hear, but oh, how deeply they hear it. Ask yourself, what do your accessories say when you're not speaking?
they filler, or are they mirrors of your depth? Do they tell the world that you are rushing to keep up with the latest trend? Or do they whisper that you are already timeless? The answer lies not in quantity, but in quality, in resonance, in stillness, in selecting pieces that carry your truth, not someone else's approval. That's why a woman who curates her accessories with intention holds a different kind of presence. She does not flash, she glows. And glow is not something you can fake. It comes from alignment. When your ring feels like a piece of your resilience, when your earrings feel like a nod to your softness, when your necklace sits over your heart like a reminder of where you've been. Where you're going, that is presence, that is power. Not the kind that demands anything, but the kind that leaves an imprint. Accessories, when chosen with stoic awareness, become more than style. They become story. They become armor. They become intimacy in physical form. And men who are attuned to your energy, men who are not chasing the loudest, but listening for the deepest, will notice. They won't always know what they're noticing, but they'll remember how it made them feel. That's because the mind forgets details, but the body remembers resonance. And when your details carry resonance, you become a woman who is not easily forgotten. This is not about becoming mysterious for the sake of seduction. It's about being meaningful for the sake of truth. Stoicism teaches us to cut away the unnecessary, to honor what lasts, to choose what matters. That's exactly what accessories are meant to be: meaningful, lasting, and chosen. Not because the world told you to wear them, but because you feel more you when you do that. Authenticity is rare, and rare is attractive. That precision is calming, and calm is magnetic. A man drawn to that quiet power is a man who values substance, who listens beyond the noise, who respects the woman who doesn't throw her essence at the world, but lets it unfold piece by piece, like a story told in gold and silk and leather and thread. Accessories, after all, are not for the world to approve. They are for the self to affirm. When chosen, well, they don't just match your outfit, they match your evolution. And the woman who evolves with grace carries her story on her skin, on her wrist, in the space between her collarbone and her voice. She wears herself fully, gently, and intentionally. That is love stoic. That is living your quiet power through visible poetry. That is being seen not for what you shout, but for what you mean. And meaning is what men are starving for in a world full of surface sex, soft, flowy fabrics. Soft, flowy fabrics speak without speaking. They move like emotion, wrap like memory, and invite like presence. They don't hug, the body to scream for attention, nor do they hide it in shame. They follow it with reverence, with grace, with a kind of dance that says more in a single step than an entire conversation ever could. There is something sacred about the way chiffon catches the breeze or silk glides along the skin. These are not just materials. They are instruments of expression. Stoicism teaches us to be measured, to be aligned with nature, to live according to our essence. And few things embody the nature of feminine essence more than fabric that flows with freedom and elegance. Have you ever worn something so soft, so fluid, that you felt instantly more grounded, more in touch with your body, your rhythm, your story? That's not fashion, it's embodiment. When a woman wears flowy fabrics, she is not trying to hide or overexpose. She is offering a different kind of presence, one that invites without chasing, one that welcomes without demanding, one that simply says, I move in harmony with myself. And men feel that they may not be able to explain it, but they see how the light dances off the folds of your dress, how the fabric sways gently with your every motion, and something in them pauses not just in admiration but in awareness, because it reminds them of something deeper, something ungraspable, something worth leaning in for in the practice of love, stoic. This is the definition of magnetism, effortless presence rooted in authenticity. Flowy fabrics whisper that you are unhurried, that you are open, that you are strong enough to be soft, and in a world that pressures women to be either hypervisible or completely invisible, this softness becomes radical. It becomes power, not the kind that overpowers, but the kind that guides, like water, like wind, like poetry in motion. The way fabric falls tells a story. The way it follows your form reveals a kind of trust. Trust in your body, in your movement, in your natural grace. You do not need to be held tightly, to be held with reverence. And men, especially men of depth, are drawn not to what is forced, but to what flows. Because flows suggests inner security. Flow says, I don't need to control this moment to own it. Flow says, I am here, and that's enough. That's what makes a man pause, not because he is commanded, but because he is captivated. Have you ever watched someone walk through a room and felt the hush that followed her? That hush was not about volume, it was about vibration, and flowy fabrics enhance that vibration. They turn every movement into a message. Every step becomes an expression of peace. Peace is magnetic, and peace worn on the body in the form of something soft, loose, breathable, and unforced is unforgettable. The woman who wears a flowing dress is not saying, look at me. She's saying, feel me? And that feeling isn't pushy, it's patient, it's stoic. Because she knows that true attraction comes not from control, but from allowing. Flowy fabrics do not restrict. They do not pretend. They do not armor. They amplify. They move with your breath, your heartbeat, your essence. They carry your energy into the room before you speak, and they let it linger after you leave. This is not accidental. This is alignment in stoicism. We do not manipulate our environment. We harmonize with it, and flowy fabrics are harmony made visible. They are a refusal to be rigid, a rebellion against constriction, a reminder that you can be elegant without being sharp, alluring, without being loud. Ask yourself, what do you feel when you wear something soft, something that floats instead of clings? Do you feel more yourself, more free, more connected to your femininity, in a way that isn't about seduction, but about spirit? That connection is what men truly notice. Not just your figure, but your freedom. Not just your style, but your serenity. And serenity is rare in a sea of tight dresses and sharp lines. Softness becomes the outlier, the miracle. The woman in the flowy dress becomes a breath of fresh air. And men will breathe her in without even knowing why, because she is not trying to impress. She is simply expressing her truth, her comfort, her alignment. And that kind of woman, she doesn't beg for space. She already owns it. Flowy fabrics are not about being passive. They are about being so secure that you don't need to armor up to feel powerful. Your softness becomes your strength. Your gentleness becomes your ground. Your movement becomes your message. And when men see that they don't just want to touch, they want to understand, they want to stay, because it is rare to meet a woman who is both present and peaceful, both expressive and effortless. That's what softness signals, not weakness, but wisdom. Not decoration, but depth. Not a look, but a lifestyle. And lifestyle is what creates lasting attraction. Anyone can look good for a moment, but to move in a way that makes someone feel something, that is rare, that is stoicism, that is feminine power without pretense. So when you choose your fabrics, think beyond the mirror. Think about how they make you feel. Think about how they hold your essence, how they carry your breath, how they let your energy lead the way. Choose silk if it makes you feel sensual. Choose linen if it makes you feel grounded. Choose chiffon if it reminds you of your lightness. The key is not the trend. The key is the truth. Let your fabric be a partner in your movement. Let it mirror your calm. Let it elevate your presence. And then watch how the room changes. Not because you forced it, but because you flowed into it. This is love stoic. This is stoicism's. Expressed not through resistance, but through receptivity. Not through power plays, but through personal power. When you wear fabrics that flow with who you are, you don't just look aligned, you become unforgettable. And if this message resonated with you, if you've ever felt the quiet fire of your own softness worn proudly, then this is your moment to share it, like this video. And comment number 1, if you've ever felt more powerful, not by trying harder, but by being more you. And be sure to subscribe right now, because what's coming next is the part that brings it all together. We're not done yet. The final chapter is the thread that ties each piece of this journey into something lasting, something whole, something unshakably yours. When everything aligns, your energy, your choices, your presence, you no longer dress to impress, but to express. You stop looking outward for validation and begin creating outward from a place of inner clarity. The pieces you wear, your fragrance, your silhouette, your color, your rhythm, ornaments, your fabric, they are no longer separate elements of style. They become one single integrated reflection of who you are becoming. And the most powerful part, none of it is about being someone else. None of it is about wearing a mask. It is about removing the masks. It's about standing in your truth and allowing the world to see you, not just the surface of you, but the soul of you. When you carry yourself with stoic poise, when you make choices based not on trends, but on self-awareness, you enter a room differently. You feel different. You become impossible to ignore, not because you demand attention, but because you radiate self-respect. And that self-respect becomes a beacon. Men feel it, women feel it. The world rearranges itself around a woman who has rearranged herself around truth, not loud, not flashy. Just undeniable stoicism teaches us to stay grounded, to embrace simplicity, to value substance over show. And isn't that the kind of beauty that truly lasts, the kind that deepens over time rather than fading, the kind that doesn't crack under pressure because it was never held together by performance to begin with? That's what we've uncovered in every section of this journey. Scent is memory in motion. A signal that lingers longer than sight fit is the language of care, discipline, and quiet power. Red is presence and color. Form the flame that doesn't beg it. Simply burns. Heels are the cadence of a woman who walks with purpose, not for applause, but because every step is aligned with direction. Accessories are whispers of depth, portals of personality, chosen not for display, but for meaning and flowy. Fabrics are the skin of softness, wrapping your strength and movement that invites peace. These 6 things are not about seduction in the superficial sense. They are about resonance. They are about embodying feminine energy in ways that speak directly to the masculine psyche, not to manipulate, but to awaken. And in doing so, they awaken you, because to truly attract is to truly be. When you stop chasing the question of what others find attractive and start becoming more present in your own skin, that's when your magnetism ignites, not because you're louder, because you're clearer, and clarity is captivating in a noisy world. Stillness is radical in a filtered world. Authenticity is electric in a rushed world. Presence is unforgettable. So take everything you've explored here and ask yourself not just what you wear, but how you wear it, why you wear it, what it reflects about you. Are you dressing from fear or from freedom? Are your clothes a cover-up or a celebration? Are you trying to be noticed, or are you preparing to be remembered? Because the moment you decide to live your life like art, intentional, curated, expressive, you stop trying to attract and start allowing the right things to be drawn to you. That's what it means to live with love. Stoic. It means being anchored in your values, aware of your energy, conscious of your effect. It means choosing grace over games, power over pressure, depth over decoration. And that shift, though, quiet, will ripple into every interaction, every room, every relationship. When you begin embodying this kind of presence, men will feel the difference. Some may be confused by it, some may not be ready for it, but the right ones, the ones who operate from clarity, not chaos, they will be pulled by it, because you are no longer reflecting need, you are reflecting certainty. Feminine stoicism is not about shrinking yourself or softening your truth. It's about standing fully in your softness, knowing it is not weakness but wisdom, knowing that the way you wear a dress, select a scent, walk in heels, touch a piece of jewelry, or choose a fabric says everything about how you treat yourself, and therefore how the world will treat you. This is not superficial. This is spiritual. It is energetic. It is emotional. It is a declaration every day. You're either affirming your worth or outsourcing it. What you wear becomes a piece of that dialogue. But when you choose with mindfulness, when you wear only what echoes your essence, the noise fades, the trying stops, the peace returns. You no longer need to seek validation because you are validating yourself in every thread, every tone, every step. And from that place, you don't just become attractive, you become magnetic, because true attraction is never the result of chasing. It's the result of clarity. And clarity begins the moment you let go of external pressure and drop into internal alignment. That is the heart of this journey, that is the soul of this message, that is the unshakable calm beneath every piece you wear. And that is the version of you that does not just walk through the world, but transforms the way the world walks toward you.